priest said to Chan Jao repair. What a fast knife. Don't move. Your injuries are too severe. It will take time to heal you. And use his ability to healing Clifton's member what? It turned out to be some small fish. And behind him, a lady member of Clifton sigh, let's get rid of them quickly. And then Swordman replied, don't be in a hurry, the real opponent may have just appeared. As the smoke disappears, we see the three members of God's team and his leads, Xiaotianli says, are finally here. And then Xiao Tian said you've been wasting too much time. So the boss asked us to take over the battlefield. It just so happens that you can take these two useless women away. And that order of commander then Zhang Yi, now that the professionals are here, there is no need for us to stay here. Let's retreat. Zhang Yi saw a girl and asked, can I still leave? Then Zhang Yi ordered his cat to help her and tend the cat his ability and became very large. Then these two ladies sat on the cat and said, Zhang Yi, no need to thank me. It's just a convenience. We came here to carry out this mission, thinking we could contribute, but who would have thought we would become a joke? And then a girl came closer to Zhang Yi and said, why didn't you take action just now? With your strength, it shouldn't be a problem to deal with the three of them, right? Then Zhang Yi replied, do you know the opponent's strength? Then girl said, no matter how strong they are, they can't possibly be stronger than you. Then Zhang Yi said, we came here only out of the last bit of morality in our hearts, not to show off or get any mission points. TSK, I really can't see through you anymore. You don't need to see through it, just follow me in action. Then we see then man who controls mind and said Nobunaga, Takizawa, and Agatsuma, are you three okay? Please reply if you get it. We're fine. What's wrong? Then mind controller said to a girl, three of you disappeared in Mayumi's hexagram. Nobunaga replied that he was not in any danger. And the girl replied, no, something must be blocking my eyes. I can't see clearly. I really can't see clearly. And with that, Fangangwan walked up to Shish Manoi, asking about their current situation, to which he informed him that, according to Nobunaga, they encountered two hostiles on their way and were later met with three members of the celestial team. After which, the strangers took away the two hostiles. He also reported that the strangers had a strange creature that could change its size. Listening to everything, Fangangwan told Shish Manoi to inform Nobunaga and his team to chase after those people as they might cause problems for them in the future, especially the ones that came later to take them away. So they must find these people and eliminate them as soon as possible. The story shifts to the southeast corner battlefield where Nobunaga, after listening to the order, informs the team about their situation and tells them to chase after the ones who ran away and track their location as they can't let them get away. Meanwhile, he tries to stop the three individuals that were in front of them. He urges them to make sure that they bring proof of their death after taking them out as he wants to show it to the team leader. After receiving the order, Takizawa Takashi and Nanako, realizing the severity of the situation, prepared to leave, telling him to be careful and not let his guard down as they do not know what these people are capable of. After this, Nanako used her ability Kamaitachi to lift herself and Takashi in the air and started to fly after their targets. Seeing how they were being ignored and not taken seriously, the celestial team felt infuriated as they were chased after their allies right in front of them. So to stop them, one of them started to chase after the two, but before he could do anything, Nobunaga swung his sword. A massive wave of energy formed from the blade, slicing the ground in front of him. Seeing how powerful the attack was, all of them were stunned, and as they were trying to grasp the situation, they heard Nobunaga telling them that he was their opponent, so they couldn't leave until he was still standing. Realizing that they can't take him lightly, Xiao Tian prepared to take him on and heard one of his teammates asking if they should chase after those two. As seeing how powerful these people are, their allies might end up in a pinch if they didn't intervene to support them. But Xiao Tian had other plans, so he told him to focus on the task in front of them first, as taking out this man was their top priority. So even if their allies end up be the enemy's hands, it would be a small price to pay as their main objective is to take out Eclipse members. And with these odds, there was no way he could take on all three of them alone and hope that they would be able to hold the two pursuers for long enough for them to take out this man. The scene shifts to Zhang Yi and the gang, Wari making their way to the armed chopper to rest and recover from their injuries. But all of a sudden, Flower, sensing the incoming danger, warns all of them about the approaching threat. Realizing that the enemy had managed to track their location and had caught up to them, All of them got on their guard, and as they looked in the distance, they saw Takizawa Takashi and Nanako flying towards them with incredible speed. Realizing the severity of the situation, Qin Shao and Peng Li tensed up as they knew firsthand how powerful these people were, and with their weakened state, there was no way they could fend them off. Meanwhile, Takizawa Takashi, looking at the state they were in, mocks them, saying they weren't even able to run away properly. Remembering how their last fight went with the sisters, he thinks that Zhang Yi and Hua were also weaklings like them as they ran away from the battlefield as soon as they saw them. But little did he know, both of them were the elite fighters from the Celestial team. As they got closer, they blocked their path, and Takizawa Takashi instantly activated his ability, mockingly asking them where they were running off and calling them low-level trash fighters. Seeing that the sisters are in no shape to fight, he thinks about his next move and sees Hua drawing her weapon to take them on. But Zhang Yi stops her as he had decided to confront them both alone and tells Hua to skip this fight as her abilities were not suited for dealing with an enemy like that. After giving the order, he slowly started to approach the enemy, saying he had already wasted a lot of time with them and couldn't afford to waste any more, so he would finish this fight quickly. Meanwhile, the enemy, seeing that he was approaching them alone, wondered if he was planning on surrendering and begging for their life. So Takizawa Takashi comments that there was no use begging for his life as they already got their orders from the headquarters, so they will take all of them out and take their heads as souvenirs for the team leader. And without wasting a breath, he starts to charge up his attack, and his whole body gets covered with electricity. He shouts, telling him that he will finish him off with one attack, and as the coins in his hands are fully charged up, he launches all 6 of them toward Zhang Yi. Seeing the projectiles coming, Zhang Yi didn't even flinch, and seeing him confidently standing in front of his attack to take it head-on, Takizawa Takashi thought that he would teach this arrogant bastard a lesson. His railgun attack will cut through his body like how a hot knife cuts through butter, but in the next second, his expression changed to horror as he stood there in disbelief, wondering how is that even possible. And that's the end of chapter 566. I hope you liked this story. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you won't miss upcoming videos like these. The scene shifts to the command center where everyone is looking at the fight between Zhang Yi and the Eclipse group. Seeing how one-sided the battle was, the commander couldn't help but comment that he managed to take out two of the members of the Eclipse group within 30 seconds. To top it all, he did it alone and without breaking a sweat. Other people in the room were just as amazed by his power and how he used it. They showed mixed reactions, with some showing concern that he might pose a threat to all of them in the future. Meanwhile, others praised him, saying this guy never ceases to amaze them. Suddenly, the whole base filled up with the sounds of sirens, warning them about a threat. After that, a man stormed into the room and informed the commander about the situation on the northern front, where they were facing difficulties fending off the enemy. He also informed him that something had happened on the western front as they were unable to contact Liao Honglei. Realizing that the enemy had made their move, the commander turned towards others, asking for the location of Deng Shentong. He was informed that Deng went out alone in battle, saying that he would take down the opponent's base camp. He further explained that if he succeeded in doing so and managed to take out their leader, panic would spread among them, and the whole Eclipse moon base would become a mess. But the captain wasn't very happy with that plan as it was dangerous and reckless. He hoped that Deng would succeed in this mission while thinking that even if he managed to eliminate the Eclipse group successfully, there was a big chance that they would face heavy losses in the Celestial team, which is something that they cannot afford right now. So, after thinking over everything, he made a quick decision and contacted Zhang Yi, telling him not to return to base just yet. He informed him that his next objective was to go to the northern front to provide support, so he needed to leave immediately. He also told him to inform the others to return to base immediately. After receiving the order, Zhang Yi turned towards the squad and instructed them to head back to the base as he would be going to the northern front. Hearing him say that, Hua Hua asked if she should accompany him on this mission, as now that he took care of the threat, they could easily make it back to the base all by themselves. Seeing her being concerned about him, Zhang Yi was moved, but he told her that her current strength wasn't enough to take on powerful enemies, so it would be dangerous for her to follow him there. Plus, it would be easier for him to fight if he went alone, and that annoyed her. She told him not to look down on her too much as she was completely capable of taking care of herself. Seeing her angry face, Zhang Yi smiled, telling her he was well aware of that. But this wasn't the time for arguing. He explained that they still didn't know the true strength of the enemy yet, and where he was going, there was a big chance that the enemy had already placed traps for intruders. So, it would be easier if he went in alone as that would draw less attention and he would slip right in. Realizing that he was right about that, she reluctantly agreed with him. She told him she would return to the base with the injured, so he needed to be careful. Zhang Yi told her not to worry. As soon as the mission was over, he would return to the base. He said that they should hurry before more enemies showed up at their location. The scene shifts to Jiangning City, Eclipse Group Base, where Shishmanoi, after realizing what happened to Takizawa and Nanako, was horrified. Seeing him panicking, Fangang approached him, asking what happened. Shishmanoi told him that Takizawa and Nanako were both killed in battle while they were pursuing those unknown individuals. That shocked him and Mayumi, who wondered how that was even possible as she was sure that her fortune-telling abilities showed that they would succeed in this mission. Seeing her acting like this, Shishmanoi informed her that maybe it was because of the interference of the unknown man who came to save them and took them away that their fortunes changed. That horrified both of them as they realized that there was a possibility that this person could block Mayumi's divination ability. Shishmanoi informed them that there was no other explanation as both Takizawa and Nanako chased after this man, and despite Mayumi's predictions showing that they would succeed, both of them ended up dead. So, this only meant that this person could mess with her powers. Hearing everything, Mayumi started to panic, wondering how that was even possible, as changing her predictions meant that this person could distort the laws of fate. The fact that her abilities had never been wrong in the past meant that their assumptions were true. This person had somehow changed the outcome of the battle. Ayumi was freaking out, thinking that there was someone out there whose future she couldn't read and couldn't predict anything about them. Seeing her expression, Fangang approached her, telling her to calm down as it wasn't her fault that her predictions failed. He told her that he would take out that man himself for her. But Mayumi was still worried about that man and told him that she couldn't predict the future anymore because of that man, which meant that many of their companions would end up dead in the fight if they tried to attack him. Hearing her concerns, Fangang smiled and told her not to think about that too much, as this was war after all. Unexpected things happen in war, so every choice they make will be their adventure. He told her that it was true that they had been relying heavily on her predictions in the past, but before they found her, they were still a powerful faction of mutants who took out many powerful enemies in battle. Plus, it would make things more exciting for them to fight the enemy without knowing what would happen next. As they were still talking, she realized something and told Shishmanoi to call back Hannah, as her fortune for today was unfortunate, so they couldn't let her get out of their sight. But just as he was about to contact her to tell her to return to the base, someone barged into the room with Hannah in hand, asking if they were looking for her. Seeing her state, Mayumi was in disbelief, wondering how someone could infiltrate their base so easily without them even knowing. Meanwhile, Fangang tried to keep a calm head and thought, "This isn't an ordinary mutant." He took out Hannah, who, being a powerful mutant, was also trained as a ninja and could escape from any situation if she felt threatened. But this man neutralized her before she could even raise the alarm. And looking at his appearance closely, he wondered if this man was Deng Sintong, the captain of the Tianxin team. He asks if that is his name, and Deng starts to smile as he is impressed that he recognized him only by his appearance. He compliments Fangang, saying that he isn't as uncivilized as he originally thought. That angers him, so he tells Deng not to look down on him. By that time, the command center had also managed to track Deng's location, and seeing that he managed to infiltrate the enemy's base, the commander was impressed. So he tells his men to bring up his feet in front of him. As the image was enlarged, they heard him challenging all three members of the Eclipse group, mockingly saying that it was fortunate for him to find all three of them in the same spot, as it made his work easier for him. He asks which one of them is the leader, as he wants to take him out and get this over with quickly, saying that he is tired of their little games. Seeing that none of them were answering, he tells them with a confident look on his face that it doesn't matter anyway, as he will take out all three of them. And after their death, he will hunt down every single one of their members and eradicate their faction from the face of the earth. Hearing his words, Fangang started to shiver, and seeing him acting like this, Deng asked if he was feeling scared and admitted the fact that he was going to die in this place. But out of nowhere, he started to laugh menacingly, shouting that the captain of the Tianxin team with the highest combat power level in the Jiangnan region came straight to him on his own, and now after he takes him out, those mutants in the Jiangnan region would never dare to bother him again. He declares that he isn't gonna be walking back from this place alive. Seeing the situation tensing up, Shishmanoi takes Mayumi's hand and runs towards cover as things are about to get serious between both of them. But Mayumi still didn't know what he was doing, so she asked for the reason for their hiding. Shishmanoi explains to her to stay back and not come out, as this isn't a fight that they can interfere in. The clash between those two might destroy this whole room along with both of them if they decided to go all out. Soon the news of Deng infiltrating the enemy's base was spread to the whole team. By that time, Zhang Yi had also sensed both of their energies rising, and both of them felt as strong as his own. So he wondered if he should go and help Deng with this fight, but decided it would be better not to intervene for now, as he still doesn't know the full power and abilities of Fangang. Also, he was worried that they might be hiding more tricks up their sleeves, so it would be dangerous for him to intervene in this fight without a proper plan. The story shifts to the Western Front, whereby Chunyue, Lu Taichong, and Luo Chun Zangari face off against Dagong Yenin, Sakura Yashimitsu, and Kurosawa Akira. After a fierce face-off, Sakura and Kurosawa decided it was time to end this battle and do it quickly, as Dagong Yenin was a formidable opponent. So much so that he couldn't even control his strength in battle and even attacked his friends when he lost control. Bai Chunyue instructed the team to focus on Dagong Yenin and neutralize him quickly, and after giving the order, he started to vanish and slowly his body started to merge with the snow. Seeing this, Dagong Yenin wondered if he had run away from the battlefield, but after scanning his surroundings, he realized that he was all around them. As he was still in his thoughts, he saw the snow coming straight towards him. He tries to run and get out of the way, but it is already too late for him, and he gets trapped in the snow. The force of the snow was so high that even he was unable to break free, and just as he thought that it couldn't get any worse, he felt countless cuts on his body. In his panic, he started to swing his weapon rapidly, trying to free himself. Seeing him struggling, Bai Chunyue started to smirk, saying that no matter how powerful he was, there was no way he could escape from this ice prison, as even with his power, there was no way he could destroy all the snow around him. Dagong Yenin, annoyed with all of this, calls him a coward, telling him to come out and face Haihedonon, but hearing his voice telling him he isn't the one who will be killing him. All of a sudden, he turned around and saw Lu Taichong, who was coming straight towards him from the back. But as the attack was about to connect, Dagong Yenin managed to block it at the last second. Seeing how easily Dagong Yenin stopped his surprise attack, Lu Taichong gets worried and hears him saying that it was a good plan. But this is where this fight ends. Lu Taichong wondered what he was talking about, as they were winning, and failed to realize his companions, who were also waiting for the right time to attack. Without any warning, Sakura Yashimitsu attacked him from the back using his gravity field and managed to pin both of them to the ground. Both of them wondered what was going on and heard Dagong Yenin saying that it was getting annoying dealing with that snow ability of his, and praised Sakura Yashimitsu for stepping in at the right time. Both of them realized that it was his ability that he used to stop their movements, and heard Dagong Yenin saying that it was time to end this fight. And without wasting any time, he leaps towards Lu Taichong to finish him off. But just as the attack was about to land, he somehow manages to move out of the way in the final second, and that surprises Dagong Yenin, as he didn't expect him to be able to move while being affected by Sakura Yashimitsu's gravity field. After gaining some distance, Lu Taichong clears his mind, realizing he can't afford to make the same mistake again. Otherwise, he might not be so fortunate next time. Also, he needs to do something about Sakura Yashimitsu, as his ability is troublesome. After that, he begins to mock Dagong Yenin, baiting him into a trap by saying that he is first-rate in terms of technique and also top-notch in terms of strength. The scene shifts to Bai Chunyue and Luo Chanzang, where Bai Chunyue was instructing him to take care of Sakura Yashimitsu and prevent him from using his gravity wave on them. Meanwhile, he will go and help Lu Taichong with Dagong Yenin. After receiving the order, he started to bring out his wings and fly towards Sakura Yashimitsu, and after he had gained the desired altitude, he activated his ability, and lightning started to rain down on the unsuspecting enemy. But just as the attack was about to land, he moves out of the way and sees the power of his attack that had managed to create a small crater in the ground. Seeing this, he decides to finish him off quickly, but before he could do anything, he sees him summoning more lightning around him. He thought he had to stop him before he could launch that attack. Otherwise, he would get in trouble and think of a way to evade. But before both of them could do anything, Kurosawa Akira appears with his rocket launcher in hand and shoots it towards Luo Chunzang, who barely manages to get out of the way. Seeing that he was struggling with the enemy, Bai Chunyue decides to help him with the fight, but just as he was going towards him, he hears a voice calling out to him. Looking back, he saw Lu Taichong, who was also struggling to keep up with Dagong Yinin's strength and was being pushed back. As Lu Taichong was distracted, calling for help, Dagong Yinin lands a powerful attack and manages to disarm him while shouting his strikes are powerful enough to take out 10 mutants. Lu Taichong sat there, terrified, waiting for the enemy to finish him off. But little did Dagong Yinin know it was all part of his plan, as he had failed to see the chain that was wrapped around his ankle. So, before he could land the finishing blow, Lu Taichong pulls the chain and manages to drop him to the ground. Seeing that they were gaining the advantage in the battle, Bai Chunyue decides to finish it off quickly and instructs Luo Chun Zhang to keep the 2 mutants busy while he goes and helps Lu Taichong with the fight, instructing him to keep them busy for long enough for them to neutralize Dagong Yinin. After that, he starts to zap both of them using his lightning, preventing them from advancing any further. Dealing with an enemy that had the ability to fly wasn't possible for both of them, so they had no other choice but to try and evade his attacks and hope that Dagong Yinin somehow could overpower the enemy. Back in the fight, Bai Chunyue uses his blizzard ability to wear down the already injured Dagong Yinin. But little did he know he had more tricks up his sleeves, and out of nowhere, he activates another one of his abilities and summons massive tornadoes around him. That shocked Bai Chunyue, who wasn't expecting him to be able to do that. He noticed that the tornadoes were slowly starting to suck him in, so realizing how dangerous the situation had become, he tried to run away, but it was no use. The tornadoes were already too close to him, and the wind was so powerful that he wasn't able to escape. As he thought things couldn't get any worse, the tornado explodes on him, stunning him momentarily. Seeing the opportunity, Dagong Yinin started to rush towards him before he could recover and manages to pin him to the ground. Seeing that he was in no state to fight anymore, he turns towards Lu Taichong, telling him they can resume their battle now without any interference. But he completely forgot Luo Chenzang, so seeing an opening, he starts to attack him from his blind spot using his lightning. But as the attack lands, Dagong Yinin doesn't even flinch and mocks him, saying that his attack tickled him a little bit. With jaw-dropping speed, he appears behind Luo Chenzang and slices him in half with one swing of the blade, managing to take him out, shocking the rest of the opponents who never expected him to be this powerful. Seeing what he did to his comrade, Lu Taichong loses it and starts to rush blindly toward him. Seeing him acting like this, Dagong Yinin mocks him even further to make him lose control and tells him to show him what he's got. In his anger, he pushes a button on his armor that activates a drug that gets injected into his body called Compound 2, which can temporarily increase a person's strength manifold, but it had major side effects. This was his trump card, and seeing that he was the only one left standing, he had no other choice but to rely on this to try and take out the enemy. After the effects of the drug kick in, he feels a massive surge of energy in his body, and with a confident look on his face, he starts to rush towards Dagong Yinin to take him out. Sensing his power, Dagong Yinin instructs his companions to not interfere in this fight, as he wants to take this person on all by himself. And after giving the order, he starts to rush towards him as well. The scene shifts back to the command center, who were looking at their fight on their screens and saw that after a fierce battle, the place got covered in a massive explosion. Seeing this, the commander's expression changes to horror as he realizes that his whole team got eradicated in that fight. Back in the battlefield, Dagong Yinin and his team were seen standing victorious over the bodies of their enemy and had managed to secure the northern front for themselves. After everything was over, Dagong Yinin comments that these were tough opponents. He hadn't had this much fun in a fight in a long time, but it's a shame that it was over so soon, to which his comrade tells him he had no doubt in them winning this fight, as the outcome of this fight was already predicted by Miss Mayumi, and she had never been wrong with her predictions. The scene shifts to Zhang Yi, who was being informed of their current situation by the commander that Deng has managed to infiltrate the headquarters of the Eclipse Group, but the entire Western Front had been wiped out by the enemy's hands. So he needs to make sure that the Northern Front doesn't fall into the enemy's hands and keep them occupied until Deng takes out their leader. After the briefing, he started to think that the two powerful energies that he felt earlier must be from Deng and the leader of the Eclipse Group, and wonders if he should rush there to help Deng in taking out the enemy leader, but decides not to do that as he might get captured if he tried to infiltrate their base, and that would mean they lose the war. So he should use Deng as bait to test the enemy's strength and weaknesses. The story shifts to the Northern Front, where mutants from both factions were confronting each other, and one of them noticed that the stolen hoardings from China were being used against them, and hears the opponent saying that there is an old saying in China that a disciple doesn't have to be inferior to the teacher, and a teacher doesn't have to be better than a disciple. Seeing them there and the state they were in, they have realized that they were the stronger ones. Hearing that, the man started to rush towards him, shouting that he would like to test that firsthand. As he got closer, the man signals to the animals, and they start to surround him from all sides. Looking at their movements, the man started to think that the three-headed dog and the gorilla seemed to be close combat Shikigami, but there were still those other three around him, and wonders why wasn't he sending them to fight. He noticed that the black crow was with each one of their members, so that means it must be used to communicate and monitor their members in the battle. As he was thinking about that, the gorilla manages to close in the distance between them, but gets hit with a powerful attack from the man on its stomach. All of a sudden, it starts to get covered in red light and strikes the man, who barely gets out of the way and sees the ground where the punch had landed and gets terrified to see the power behind that attack. He thinks the only reason that its hand didn't shatter after delivering that attack was because that thing wasn't a living creature with a body, but just condensed power that had taken the form of that thing. After gaining some distance, he starts to think of a way to kill that thing without getting too close. As he was in his thoughts, the three-headed dog fires a powerful laser towards him from the back, but the man manages to get out of the way in the last second. Seeing no other way, the man decides to leave the Shikigami, as taking them on might be troublesome, and focus on the one controlling them as puppets, as this was his only bet to winning this fight. But that wasn't an easy task itself, as he was being protected by all those Shikigami that would rather die than to let him get close to their master. And with the rate things were going, he probably wouldn't be even able to touch him. As he was thinking over everything, a thought hits him, and he remembers about a mutant named Liao Honglei, who also uses Shikigami to fight. To summon them, he uses a special talisman to bring them to this world and hides it inside the body of the Shikigami. That works as both a power source for the creature and also lets him control them to his will. He thinks that he might be able to get rid of his Shikigami if he somehow manages to locate the talisman's location and destroy it. But that itself wasn't an easy task, as he doesn't even know how his talisman looks like, let alone where it is hidden. So, not wasting any more time, he leaps towards the overgrown monkey with all his might and manages to land a powerful blow on its face, stunning it momentarily. But the thing quickly recovers, so he had to jump back before getting crushed by it. Seeing that his attack had no effect on it, he started to wonder where its weak spot could be, as attacking it on its face had no effect. Meanwhile, his opponent had figured out what he was planning on doing, and seeing him struggling, he thinks that this person has watched too many movies, as there was no way that he was going to hide the talisman in an obvious spot of the Shikigami's body like its head or heart. He decides to finish this fight quickly, as if the battle drags on, he might lose his Shikigami, and that would be troublesome for him, as this man's abilities are not to be taken lightly. So, not wasting any more time, he signals to his six-tailed fox to join in the battle and finish him off. As the signal was given, the creature started to charge up an attack, but the man hadn't noticed that yet, as he was busy with the other Shikigami, and by the time he did notice, it was already too late. As a last effort, he tried to block the laser beam, but it was no use as the attack was too powerful. So much so that the impact of the attack creates a massive mushroom cloud in the sky, and dust and debris scattered all over the area with massive shockwaves coming out of it. There was no way a normal human could escape from such a powerful attack. Thinking that it was over, The enemy let its guard down, and just as they were about to leave, the man appears from the smoke and grabs onto the monkey. The creature was stunned, and before it could try and free itself, the man, using his inhumane strength, crushes the thing in two. As the massive body of the Shikigami crumbled to the ground, the man saw the talisman that was being used to control the creature and wasting no time. The man picks it up and snaps it in two pieces while telling the opponent that he did very well in hiding the talisman in its body, but it was no use. But for some reason, the opponent wasn't worried about the loss of the Shikigami, and that surprised the man. And out of nowhere, the man brings out another talisman, and after using his ability on the thing, he tells it to go. And as soon as he spoke those words, it turns into a massive gorilla, after which he tells the man he came prepared for this fight. So no matter how many of his Shikigami get taken out, he can always summon more. And as he was still talking, the man brings out his gun and fires it at the man, saying if that's the case, he will need to finish this fight quickly. Meanwhile, the opponent stood there stunned as the bullet grazed by his face. He realizes that he can't waste any more time, and in his anger, he orders all of his Shikigami to attack him at once and take him out. Seeing all of them coming, the man didn't move and allowed them to close in the distance between them, and as soon as they got in range, he started to throw flash bombs towards them. Seeing the things coming towards them, the man froze in fear, and in the next second, the battlefield filled up with bright light, stunning all of them. Realizing that he can't win this fight, the man started to run away to save his life. And as he was doing that, the bearded mutant appears in front of him, asking where he was going. He tells the man that he was already dead, so there was no use running away. But to his surprise, the opponent wasn't intimidated at all, and with a sadistic smile on his face, he tells the man that he wasn't done yet. Not giving him any time to react, he grabs onto his hands, and the man realizes what he was planning on doing, but it was already too late to do anything. The man started to struggle, trying to free himself so he could run, but in the next second, both of them get covered in a massive explosion so powerful that no normal human being could survive. The story shifts back to the command center, where the commander, after seeing the state Leah Hongli was in shock. He stood in front of the screen in disbelief as he saw his broken body on the ground, covered in blood. But there was no sign of the enemy. Back in the battlefield, Jinguji Siro stood in front of the defeated foe with a satisfied look and said that he got lucky in this fight. Leah Hongli had fallen for his trap, as he had created that puppet using his spells and filled it with explosives. Thanks to this, he managed to trick him into thinking that it was the real him. Otherwise, he would have had no hope of defeating him if he had faced him head-on. Back in the command center, the commander was freaking out, thinking that he had just lost two of his teams in one day. He thought that Leah Hongli was one of the most powerful soldiers in his ranks and was the vice-captain of the Celestial team, which ranked first and had a 100% mission completion rate. As he was still in his thoughts, he saw a gruesome scene on the screen, followed by Leah Hongli's cries for help. He saw his broken body being mangled by the Shikigami and the blood spilling everywhere. Looking at this scene, Tuyuni got furious and hoped that their only hope now was Deng Shenong. As long as he could take out Fanging Wan, the sacrifices made by their comrades wouldn't go in vain. But if he lost the fight, the consequences of the battle would be terrifying, as not only would it affect their image in front of the foreign threats who feared them for their powerful mutants, but it would also attract more threats that would try to capitalize on this situation to wipe them out for good. Meanwhile, Sun Lushuan was looking around at the tense situation in the room, and a thought rose in his head. He started to look at everyone present in the command room with suspicious eyes, and thought that it was strange how they were losing the battle at so many locations. He wondered if this could be because of a spy in their team that they didn't know about. But seeing that the fight wasn't over yet, he decided not to talk about this to the commander just yet, and to wait for the battle to finish before he told him about his suspicions. The scene shifted back to Jinguji Siro, who was making his way toward his injured comrades. Seeing the state they were in, he commented that it was an embarrassing sight to see them both end up like this. He said that if they weren't mutants and were normal humans, they would have been dead long ago from the injuries they sustained in this fight. After that, he brought out medicine from his pocket and injected it into both of them. As he was doing that, he commented that their opponents were really powerful mutants. If it weren't for the help of that person who had informed them about their weakness, the outcome of the battle would have been completely different. Hearing his concerns, Shinichiro Akutsu told him that it didn't matter how powerful those people were, they still lost to them, so they shouldn't be so worried about it. Hearing his words, Jinguji Siro reminded him that these weren't the only mutants that the Jiangnan region had. They had many more powerful mutants, and if they came across more of them, the chances of winning would be very low. Akutsu, ever confident, laughed. He spoke about how Miss Takeuchi's divination had been correct. Even if he was injured, he was still alive, which was a victory in itself. Before he could finish, Kamiya Nai suddenly shouted a warning, telling them to be careful. Jinguji Siro's eyes widened, and instinctively he summoned his Shikigami to protect himself. Akutsu also felt the threat approaching, but his injuries made it difficult for him to react in time, and a silver bullet pierced through his forehead. He collapsed instantly, his life snuffed out. Kamiya Nai screamed out, warning of an ambush, but wasn't fast enough to react on time, and the bullet pierced through his skull and into his brain, ending his life. The scene shifts, and we see Zhang Yi, who was the one taking them out. He looked at Jinguji Siro and realized that he couldn't take him out unless those Shikigami are protecting him. Meanwhile, Jinguji Siro could do nothing but watch as his comrades get taken out in front of him. And seeing how easily both of them were taken out, he started to panic and started to run away from the battlefield with his Shikigami. But all of a sudden, two more of his Shikigami appear from both sides that were trying to ambush him, but he was too fast for them. So he opens up two portals and sucks both of them in. Jinguji Siro looked in disbelief as both of his Shikigami get sucked into the portals. Seeing this, he started to wonder what kind of a monster this person is, as he took out both of his creatures in an instant. Sensing that this isn't a fight that he could win, Jinguji Siro started to run away, hiding his presence in the thick fog. But it was no use, as Zhang Yi looked at him with a smile on his face, and all of a sudden, he activated his ability, and his eyes started to emanate bright blue light. Using this ability, he pinpointed Jinguji Siro's location, who was running in a panic, thinking that this isn't an ordinary person and wondering if he is a monster. He thinks that if he stays in this place for too long, he will end up just like his two comrades, and decides to retreat to the temple to report this incident to his superiors and discuss the countermeasures. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The story shifts back to the command center, where Zhu Yong, along with everyone else, was stunned, looking at how the tide of battle shifted instantly as soon as Zhang Yi arrived at the scene. They were amazed to see how the opponents that even the Celestial team weren't able to defeat were taken out by the hands of Zhang Yi, who was an outsider and was sent just to provide support to their elite members. Even the captain was amazed and comments that if he had known about his strength, he would have made him the team leader. But, unlike the others, one person wasn't very happy with how they were giving all the credit to Zhang Yi and comments that he just managed to take out the mutants who were already injured in battle, and even let Jinguji Siro escape. To which the captain reminds him that he also took out the mutant couple earlier all by himself, and managed to save their mutants from the battlefield. Hearing that, the man agreed with him but also asks, if he really was such a powerful mutant, why did he hide his strength from them? If he had gone to support the other fronts earlier, maybe they would have saved some of their mutants, and the outcome of the battle would be completely different. He tells the commander that even though this person is strong, they can't completely trust him and his loyalty to the Blizzard City. As he says those words, he hears small chuckles in the room, and turning around, he sees Bailey Chongqing, who is laughing at him. He asks if he finds that funny. Seeing his angry expressions, Bailey Chongqing tells him that it was nothing important. It's just that they can't use the standards of the Blizzard City to demand the loyalty of the Outer City mutants. And among the mutants from the Outer City, only Zhang Yi performed the best. He thought that he was right but, still being stubborn, tells Bailey Chongqing that Zhang Yi had the ability to help his teammates, but he chose not to and stayed on the sidelines while most of his team got wiped out. This is not the characteristic of the elite in the Blizzard City. Hearing them arguing, the captain tells them he has made up his mind. Without wasting any more time, he picks up his walkie-talkie and calls Zhang Yi, telling him to withdraw from the mission and head back to the extraction chopper. That shocks everyone in the room. Lan Xingchang was shocked when he heard those words and wonders what he was thinking, calling him back when he was so close to the enemy's base. But before he could say anything, The commander stops him while thinking that they have already lost too many members in this fight and can't afford to lose Zhang Yi also. So, for now, they just have to put their faith in Dang and hope that he succeeds in taking out the enemy leader. The story shifts back to the extraction chopper, where Zhang Yi had arrived and was greeted by a doctor who was asking if he had sustained any injuries from the fight, to which Zhang Yi simply signals him that he was all right. As he approaches the chopper, he sees more of the survivors from the outer city, and seeing the state they were in, he couldn't help but think how pathetic they looked right now. But ignoring that, he started to board the chopper. As he was doing that, Liang Wei asks if he completed his mission, to which Zhang Yi informs her, yes. That shocks everyone on the chopper, as they never expected an outer city mutant to be able to face the Eclipse group and survive. To confirm it, one of them asks if he really managed to take out a member of the Eclipse group and comments that those people are strong as a monster. Another man says the same thing, telling Zhang Yi that the only people strong enough to take on mutants like those are the Celestial team members, reminding him that they were just cannon fodder in this mission. Their words annoy Zhang Yi, and he tells them not to mix him with themselves. He isn't a weakling like the rest of the mutants that they met. Still not believing what he was saying, they ask if he even faced off against an Eclipse group member in the battlefield. They comment that Zhang Yi probably just hid behind the elite members of the Celestial team and provided support from a distance. Otherwise, he would have never survived the fight against such powerful mutants. Seeing that the conversation wasn't going anywhere, Zhang Yi simply sat on his chair, saying that they are probably right about that. He must have just come across 4 of the weakest members of the Eclipse group and took them out. Hearing that he managed to take out 4 of the mutants from the Eclipse group, Yuan Hao sat up and asked if what he was saying was really true, that he single-handedly took out 4 members from the Eclipse group. But Zhang Yi completely ignored him and started to think about Dang, who was facing off against the Eclipse group's leader. He thinks that he can't do anything but wait for the outcome of this battle, but thinks he is a powerful mutant, so he shouldn't worry about him too much. The story shifts back to Dang and Fanggang, where Fanggang was telling Dang that he will get rid of him here and send a clear message to his whole faction that they aren't easy targets. Hearing those words, Dang mocks him, telling him to come and try it if he thinks he can take him on so easily. Hearing that, he activates his ability and gets covered in a bright red aura, after which he tells Dang to show him what he could do. Hearing his words, Dang prepares to fight and activates his power, and the room fills up with bright light, looking at which Fanggang starts to get hypnotized. And as he was under the effect of the ability, Dang leaps towards him to finish him off, while thinking that this is his chance to finish him off. But just as he was about to strike him down, Fanggang grabs onto his fist at the last second, and the force of the attack creates shockwaves around them. Seeing that his attack had no effect on him, Dang thinks he can't underestimate this person. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. He tells Fanggang that it was impressive that he managed to maintain his consciousness after being affected by his illusion ability, but it was not enough if he wanted to take him on. After saying that, he activates the blessings of the Holy Eucharist, boosts his strength several folds, and delivers a powerful punch to Fanggang's chest, catching him completely off guard. As Fanggang tries to move back, Dang grabs his arm, preventing him from moving away, and prepares to finish the fight with one powerful attack. After this, he delivers a bone-crushing punch to his chest and manages to punch a hole in it with his brute strength. Fanggang hangs there, completely shocked and on the brink of death, wondering how this person could be this powerful. He never imagined that he would be taken out so easily and hears Dang saying that the leader of the Eclipse group was much more fragile than he thought. But little did he know, Fanggang wasn't done yet. With a grin on his face, he looks at Dang and tells him not to run after seeing what happens next. He grabs onto Dang's arm and gets covered in bright red flames. Seeing this sight, Dang is completely surprised. Without wasting any time, he frees himself and leaps back to create some distance between them, after which he puts out the fire on his clothes before it spreads all over his body. As he looks at Fanggang, he notices him swaying rapidly for some reason. He wonders what he was trying to do since, if he keeps moving like that, he will lose all his blood and perish. Just as Dang thought, Fanggang's lifeless body falls to the floor and gets covered in flames. But to his surprise, he sees Fanggang slowly getting back up from the fire like a phoenix being reborn after his death. As he appears from the flames, All his injuries are completely gone, and there is no sign of fatigue on his face. He tells Dang that he is a powerful mutant with very interesting abilities, but it's too bad that it won't be enough to take him out. Seeing everything, Dang isn't intimidated at all and mocks him by saying that if that's the case, he'll just keep killing him until he can't get back up. Dang begins preparing to attack again. Seeing that Dang wasn't planning on giving up, Fangang tells him it's no use. No matter how many times he tries, he can't kill him, so he should just give up and surrender. Maybe then he'll consider ending him in a painless manner. As Fangang continues speaking, Dang leaps toward him with incredible speed and plans to deliver a powerful attack while shouting, "Let's see if you survive this attack." Fangang tries to block, but Dang is just too fast for him and manages to pierce through his body with a powerful strike. But it's no use, as just before dying, Fangang's ability activates again, and he starts to resurrect right in front of Dang's eyes. The scene shifts to the outside of the base, where we see Takashi Mayumi sitting in the middle of nowhere, using her scroll to perform some kind of ritual. Upon closer inspection, we see she is pouring her blood onto the phoenix on the scroll, resurrecting Fangang every time he dies in battle against Dang. Back in the base, Dang, after trying several times, is unable to take out Fangang as his ability keeps reviving him after death. He didn't know it was the work of Takashi Mayumi, who was using her powers to keep Fangang alive. Dang thinks to himself that this is a tricky opponent, and he needs to find a way to take him out. As he is lost in thought, he hears Fangang say that Dang should know by now that no matter how many times he tries, he can't kill him. Fangang adds that this battle is pointless, and sooner or later, Dang will get exhausted and die. He suggests Dang give up. Hearing these words, Dang starts to think there must be a limit to how many times Fangang can resurrect. He decides he just has to keep trying until Fangang can no longer get back up. Thinking about everyone who is counting on him, Dang prepares to fight. He tells Fangang that many people are waiting for the news of his victory, so he can't let them down. He will go all out and finish this fight quickly. As Dang activates his ability, Fangang starts to get hypnotized. When he regains consciousness, he finds himself inside another dimension, an empty space with mirrors floating all around him. In front of him stands Dang. Fangang asks if this is one of his illusions, as he can see everything through the mirrors. While distracted, Dang delivers a powerful attack on his face, and the place fills with blood. The story shifts back to the outside of the base, where we see Shishmanoi telling Takashi Mayumi to stop as she is losing too much blood. He warns her that if she continues, her whole arm will become useless. But she doesn't stop and keeps performing the ritual. She tells Shishmanoi to stay out of this, saying she will do anything to allow their people to take root in this vast land. As she continues, the phoenix on the scroll starts to emanate immense light all around it. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. The one and only 217 Prince YT. Back at the Eclipse Moon base, Dang was growing increasingly frustrated. He had watched Fangang rise again and again, each time after dying, defying every expectation. Dang couldn't help but notice something strange. Fangang wasn't consuming any mana when he regenerated. This left him wondering, what is the source of this man's power? But he decided to set those thoughts aside. With a deep growl of determination, Dang charged toward Fangang, thinking to himself, there must be a limit to his immortality. No one can keep coming back forever. Resolute in his decision, he gritted his teeth. If I have to blow him to pieces to find that limit, so be it. Dang attacked relentlessly, searching for an opening in Fangang's defense. He shouted mid-assault, his voice filled with both fury and desperation. Let's see how many more times you can get back up. Just as Dang's powerful kick was about to connect, Fangang shocked him by catching it mid-air. The force behind the kick was enormous, yet Fangang managed to stop it, leaving Dang momentarily stunned. However, as Fangang held his leg, he glanced downward, only to realize too late that the real Dang was already in motion below him. With explosive speed, Dang launched himself upward and drove his fist into Fangang's stomach, delivering a devastating blow that pierced through his torso. Fangang's body was flung backward, tumbling across the ground. Dang wasted no time. Drawing his weapon, he pointed it at Fangang's skull. Let's see you come back from this, he muttered coldly before pulling the trigger. The gunshot echoed in the room, and Fang Ang's lifeless body collapsed onto the floor, unmoving. Breathing heavily, Dang stood over him, his eyes filled with suspicion and hope. Was it over? He stared at the still figure for what felt like an eternity, his chest heaving. But then, his worst nightmare unfolded. Fang Ang's body began to glow, and flames erupted from his form. The fire consumed his wounds, healing them before Dang's horrified eyes. Slowly, Fang rose once more, his body engulfed in fiery brilliance. Dang felt a chill of despair creeping in, his earlier confidence crumbling. Can this man truly die? But he shook off the creeping hopelessness and steadied himself. If Fang couldn't be killed, there had to be another way. He thought of all his failed attempts to drain Fang Ang's mana, remembering how it always replenished after each resurrection. There was no denying it now. Fang Ang's immortality couldn't be undone by conventional means. Dang clenched his fists. I'll have to seal him. That's the only way. With newfound resolve, Dang acted quickly, binding Fang tightly with a thick, enchanted rope. You're coming with me, he growled. I'll drag you back to Blizzard City and figure out how to deal with you there. As Dang prepared to move, his guard slipped for just a moment. That moment was all Fang needed. A dark laugh escaped Fang Ang's lips, sending chills down Dang's spine. Thank you, Fang said, his voice filled with mocking glee, for giving me the perfect opportunity to take you out. Before Dang could react, a deafening explosion erupted from Fang Ang's body. As the smoke cleared, Dang noticed something horrifying. His clothes were soaked with blood. But it wasn't just ordinary blood. Fang Ang's blood clung to Dang's skin, and almost immediately, flames ignited across his body. The searing pain was unbearable, and the room filled with Dang's agonized screams. Fang stood tall amidst the chaos, grinning as he watched his foe writhe in agony. Do you feel it, Dang? Fang said, his voice dripping with malice. Not everyone can withstand the power of the Phoenix. But now, it's your turn to die. Fang lunged toward the burning Dang, moving with deadly speed. Dang, still engulfed in flames, struggled to stay conscious. His vision swam, and for the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Is this how it ends? Will I die here? Before he could gather his thoughts, Fang Ang's knee collided with his chest, launching him into a wall with tremendous force. The impact shattered the wall, sending debris crumbling around him. Dang groaned, his body battered and broken, but his spirit remained unyielding. Slowly, he forced himself to move. I can't die here, he thought. Everyone is counting on me to take down the leader of the Eclipse group. I have to. But Fang was relentless. He closed the distance between them, his eyes glinting with the promise of finality. Standing over the struggling Dang, he smirked. It's time to end this, he said coldly. Dang had no strength left to stand, but his mind raced. Should he use it? The forbidden power he had kept hidden, the one that could destroy everything, including himself? As Fang reached down to deliver the final blow, a sudden surge of energy erupted from Dang. The ground trembled, and an explosion of unimaginable magnitude engulfed the room. The shockwave obliterated everything in its vicinity, reducing the once formidable battlefield to rubble. Fang staggered back, his expression one of utter disbelief. What just happened? Amid the devastation, the fate of the two warriors remained uncertain. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The scene shifts back to headquarters, where chaos erupted as everyone panicked over the outcome of the battle. In a desperate final move, Dang chose to self-detonate, hoping to take the enemy down with him. The commander, clearly distraught, watched one of his elite mutants make such a sacrifice. He had sent a team of his strongest mutants on this mission, yet all of them were annihilated at the hands of the enemy. Furious, he ordered Lan Xing to immediately call back the remaining mutants from the battlefield. Observing the commander's erratic behavior, Zhu Yong quickly deduced what he might be planning, but given the tension in the room, he chose to remain silent. Overwhelmed by anger, the commander stood up and bellowed, demanding that the ultimate weapon be prepared. His intent was clear. Ningjin City would be leveled to the ground. As soon as the order was issued, Lan Xing rushed to the controls, preparing the weapon for launch. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, Fangang was slowly rising from the rubble. Despite being blown to pieces by Dang, Takachi Mayumi's powers had kept him alive. As he regained his footing, Fangang declared his victory, mocking Dang by proclaiming that his sacrifice was meaningless since he still stood. With his victory secured, Fangang prepared to leave. However, he reminded himself that the mutants from Blizzard City were far more dangerous than he had anticipated. Next time, he would need to take extra precautions. The perspective shifts again, this time to Takachi Mayumi, who was coughing up blood from overexerting herself while reviving Fangang. Concerned for her condition, Shishmanoi urged her to rest, emphasizing that losing her in this battle was not an option. As he spoke, he noticed that her bleeding had not stopped, and fearing that her condition would deteriorate further, he decided to take her away from the battlefield to tend to her injuries. As they prepared to leave, Takachi revealed through strained words that she had foreseen a great danger approaching. She insisted they evacuate everyone from the city immediately, or they would all be wiped out. Grasping the gravity of her vision, Shishmanoi agreed, urging her to find a vehicle without delay. Before long, the two of them were seen driving toward Fangang, intent on warning him about the impending threat. Shishmanoi told Fangang to get in the car, explaining the vision Takachi had shared. Realizing the enemy was planning to deploy a weapon of mass destruction to obliterate the city, Fangang urged them to leave immediately. As the car sped away, Fangang glanced at Takachi and noted her critical condition. He knew they needed to find a safe place to treat her injuries, as her survival was crucial to their efforts. Lost in thought, Fangang suddenly spotted something outside the car. Zhang Yi and the remaining members of his team were retreating from the city. Watching them leave, Fangang felt certain their paths would cross again. Snapping out of his thoughts, Fangang was questioned by a mutant in the back seat, who asked whether they would continue with their plan despite the heavy losses suffered during the battle. Many mutants were dead, and those who survived were too injured to fight. After a brief pause, Fangang assured them they would take a break for the time being. With a confident smirk, he told the group they should be proud of their success, as they had single-handedly defeated a powerful faction. He then hinted that next time, he had an even bigger surprise in store for their enemies. His words sparked frustration in one of the mutants, who lashed out, reminding him that they had barely survived this encounter and lost many comrades in the process. They couldn't afford to face such an enemy alone again. Remaining calm, Fangang explained that driving back the Blizzard City mutants and forcing their retreat was a significant achievement. He questioned what other factions would think upon learning of this feat, suggesting that their victory might inspire others to join them in their fight against Blizzard City. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The scene shifts back to the helicopter, where Zhang Yi gazes out at the car carrying the Eclipse group members. As he watches, a question lingers in his mind. Why are they retreating so suddenly? If Dang had been victorious, there would be no need for such a hasty withdrawal. Could it be that Dang failed his mission and was killed by the enemy? The thought unsettles him, and his expression darkens. If that's the case, then the strength of the Eclipse group is far more formidable than they had anticipated. After all, they had just wiped out Jiangnan region's elite team. The realization that the entire Celestial team was annihilated makes him think of the commander. How furious he must be right now. Lost in thought, he is pulled back to reality when Zhou Qier calls his name, asking if everything is all right. He reassures her that everything is fine, though doubt still lingers in his heart. Just then, a deafening explosion shakes the air, and a massive mushroom cloud rises in the distance, engulfing the city in destructive shockwaves. Everyone in the chopper stares in horror at the devastation. Mojang, still in disbelief, mutters that he never imagined the Eclipse group was so powerful that the headquarters had to resort to a weapon of mass destruction. Li Wei nods grimly, explaining that these were no ordinary mutants. He had heard rumors about them before. They were infamous for their ruthless plundering across the Neon Guangdong region, known as the most fearsome bandit gang in those parts. Gazing out of the helicopter window, he adds, but none of that matters anymore. No one could survive an explosion like that. Despite his words, Zhang Yi remains uneasy. Zhokir notices his discomfort and tries to reassure him. There's no way they survived, not after being hit by such a powerful weapon, she says. But Zhang Yi shakes his head. I can't shake this feeling. They won't die that easily. A troubling thought creeps into his mind. What if one of them has a precognitive ability? If they could foresee future events with precision, they might have anticipated the attack and escaped before the blast. Meanwhile, news of the weapon's deployment spreads rapidly. Leaders from various factions scramble to uncover the truth, questioning whether Jiangnan was forced to use such extreme measures because their own mutants failed to neutralize the Eclipse group. Back at headquarters, the commander sits deep in thought, troubled by the drastic measures he had to take. He never expected that wiping out a single team of mutants would require such a weapon. His thoughts are interrupted when an officer rushes in with urgent news. Sir, satellite surveillance has picked up traces of the Eclipse group. They escaped 10 minutes before the weapon was launched. The commander's eyes widen in shock. That's impossible. How could they have known? Lan Xing steps forward, presenting satellite footage of a vehicle speeding away just before the explosion. This is how they escaped. The weight of the situation sinks in. Even after losing his elite team and deploying a weapon of mass destruction, he had still failed to eliminate them. Were the rumors true? Did they really have individuals who could foresee every battle's outcome? If that were the case, how could they possibly defeat an enemy that was always one step ahead? Then, his mind drifts to Zhang Yi, the one soldier who had taken down 4 Eclipse members and even forced Phoenix, the second-ranked opponent, to retreat. A glimmer of hope sparks within him. If anyone could stand against them, it was Zhang Yi. Determined, he gathers his officers and issues strict orders. What you've seen here today stays in this room. If this information leaks, the residents of Blizzard City will lose their qualifications and be expelled from the country. As for Dang's family, he will personally inform them of his fate. The scene shifts to Dang's house, where a man listens as his subordinate reports back. I followed your instructions and relayed the appropriate responses to headquarters, the subordinate says. And what did you find? The man asks. Something strange, the subordinate replies. Even after the leader of the Eclipse group was defeated by the young master, he kept reviving during the battle. A tense silence follows before the subordinate finally asks, why are we agreeing to cooperate with headquarters? The man's voice is firm. Because the Jiangnan region's fate is tied to ours. If it falls, we fall with it. We must stabilize the region ourselves. The subordinate nods, though uncertainty lingers in his eyes. I don't understand your vision, but I will follow your orders to the very end. The man's expression hardens. Find out who is collaborating with the Eclipse group. And remember, if you fail, even Zhuozheng won't be able to save you from the consequences. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The scene shifts back to Zhang Yi as his chopper descends at the airport. Gazing outside, he notices a heavy military presence securing the area. The sight immediately confirms his suspicion. The city is in complete lockdown. Their weapon of mass destruction had failed against the Eclipse group, and the aftermath was evident. He also realizes that Dang perished in the battle. A pity, he thinks, as he had genuinely liked that person. As both choppers land, soldiers cautiously approach them. Stepping out, Zhang Yi and his companion are greeted by their commanding officer, who commends them for their victory over the enemy. Turning to Zhang Yi, he specifically acknowledges his exceptional performance, highlighting how he single-handedly eliminated 4 Eclipse members and safeguarded the dignity of the Jiangnan region, along with the entire Huashu nation. As the officer speaks, another soldier approaches, holding something in his hands. He hands it over to his superior, who then presents it to Zhang Yi and his team. A point card, a reward for their bravery in battle. With this, they can redeem various supplies from Blizzard City and headquarters. He further explains that their efforts earned them a total of 420 million points, a value comparable to the pre-apocalypse currency. Zhang Yi examines the card and asks if it can be used to purchase anything. The officer clarifies that while most materials are available for exchange, certain restricted items, like weapons and cutting-edge technology, require special permission. However, given Zhang Yi's achievements, his high-level point card grants him access to a corresponding materials warehouse, allowing him to obtain most resources. After the explanation, the officer informs them of an order from the higher-ups. They are not permitted to leave the designated area for the time being. Any actions they wish to take must receive prior approval. Zhang Yi immediately understands. The devastating loss in this battle has shaken Blizzard City's leadership. The top brass now seeks to contain the situation, ensuring that those involved in the battle remain isolated from the public to prevent news of the defeat from spreading. After weighing his options, Zhang Yi agrees to comply. However, he reassures himself that if necessary, he can always use his space ability to escape or reach any destination undetected. With that thought, he follows the officer. After a brief journey by car, they arrive at their destination, a massive villa. As they step out, the officer informs them that this will be their temporary residence. If they require anything, they may contact the station soldiers. With that, he wishes them well and departs. As they walk toward the villa, Zhang Yi observes the heavy military presence surrounding the area, causing him to wonder if the situation is even worse than he initially suspected. Once inside, Liang Yu turns to him, frustration evident in her voice. She questions why they are under house arrest despite their service to the region. Zhang Yi calmly explains that the defeat has likely intensified Blizzard City's internal power struggles, though he isn't entirely certain. Still, as long as their lives aren't at risk, he isn't too concerned. His priority remains their safety. He speculates that the leaders may even want to appoint him as the new team captain, but he has no interest in that role. It's too much responsibility, and he isn't willing to take charge of others' lives. As their conversation continues, Liang Yu suggests he call home to reassure his people. She then raises a pressing concern. If the Eclipse group fled Jiangnan City, could they be heading toward Tianhai City? If so, the city's current defenses wouldn't be enough to stop them. Realizing the urgency, Zhang Yi immediately dials Xin. When she picks up, she anxiously asks how he's doing and when he'll return. She explains that everyone was terrified upon hearing Blizzard City deployed a weapon of mass destruction. The blast even caused a temporary malfunction of electronic equipment in their city, making system recovery a frustrating ordeal. Hearing this, Zhang Yi chuckles and reassures her that they are safe. He then inquires about the current situation in Tianhai City. Xin informs him that apart from the temporary equipment failure, nothing unusual has happened. Zhang Yi then lowers his voice, warning her that what he is about to say must remain confidential. He explains the reality. Blizzard City's assault on the Eclipse group failed, resulting in heavy casualties. Given Tianhai City's proximity to Jiangnan City, there is a possibility the Eclipse group might seek refuge there. He instructs her to keep everyone inside the shelter for now and to remain on high alert. If she notices anything suspicious, she must contact him immediately and take cover in the basement. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Xin assures him that she will follow his instructions. She then mentions something intriguing. She has been researching the Eclipse group and has uncovered something valuable. Once she completes her analysis, she will send him the intel. Zhang Yi, intrigued, asks how she managed to obtain information that even the Jiangnan region struggled to uncover. With a hint of pride, she claims that while Jiangnan's programmers may have access to the most advanced equipment, their skills don't compare to hers. Zhang Yi chuckles, fully agreeing with her assessment. However, he reminds her to prioritize her safety and remain prepared for any situation. Before ending the call, Xin hesitates, then asks if she was the only person he contacted about this matter. Zhang Yi confirms that she is the first. Hearing that, she feels a surge of happiness, knowing how much he trusts and cares for her. She promises not to be a burden and vows to do everything she can to support him. Zhang Yi assures her that she was never a burden. In fact, she is the most important person in his life and has always been a great help to him. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Xin thanks him for his faith in her and informs him that she has other tasks to attend to. After exchanging goodbyes, she sets off with a determined expression. As she walks, a thought lingers in her mind. She must not hold him back. Eventually, she arrives at her destination, where Shoker awaits. Looking at her, Xin firmly declares that it's time to begin the experiment. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. When Shoker hears what she says, she asks if Zio has really thought it through. Shoker warns her that this experiment is extremely dangerous and will be very painful. She wants to know if Zio is sure she can handle it. But Zio calmly replies that she has made up her mind. She wants to be strong, not just for herself, but also to help her brother. To do that, she needs to get stronger, and this experiment is the way to do it. Shoker, seeing that Zio isn't going to change her mind, reluctantly agrees to help her. The scene jumps ahead in time, and now Shoker and Zio are getting ready for the experiment. Shoker explains that she will need to tie Zio down to keep her from struggling with the pain during the procedure. Zio says she doesn't mind being tied up because she trusts Shoker completely. Shoker hesitates one last time and tells Zio that it's not too late to stop. She's worried Zio won't be able to handle the pain, but Zio insists on going ahead. She tells Shoker to start the procedure because they've already wasted too much time. Shoker prepares everything and attaches Zio to a machine that will monitor her vitals during the experiment. Once everything is set up, Shoker pushes a button on the machine, and a glass cube fills with liquid, covering Zio's face. Soon, her face is fully submerged, and she starts to struggle because she's running out of oxygen. Seeing Zio in distress, Shoker starts to panic. She watches the machine, but the vitals show no signs of life. After what feels like an eternity, Shoker looks at the clock and sees that 2 minutes have passed. With no other choice, she begins the next step of the experiment, using her powers to affect Zio's body. Suddenly, Zio wakes up, coughing and gasping for air. Zio asks if the experiment has failed, and Shoker explains that she has done research on Zio's cells. She found that after being exposed to gamma rays, some of Zio's cells have mutated. But that doesn't mean she'll automatically develop any special abilities like other mutants. Shoker warns her that while near-death experiences might trigger superpowers in some people, there's no guarantee it will work. Not everyone will awaken powers. Then Shoker adds that, based on her tests, Zio has the potential to awaken ice powers. Zio, thinking about their previous research, reminds Shoker that the strength and type of any superpower depends on the person's mindset. When someone is near death, the desire to live can turn into a superpower. The more powerful the desire to survive, the stronger the power. She goes on to say that she awakened her abilities through an ice soul, but those abilities are just extra, not main powers. Zio believes that to unlock a stronger ability, she needs to go through more near-death experiences. She's certain that if she can keep pushing her limits, she'll unlock the power she needs. As Shoker listens, she starts to understand. Even though Zio doesn't have mutant-like powers right now, she's still capable of helping Zhang Yi. But Zio explains that it's not just about helping him. She doesn't want to be a weak burden anymore. She doesn't want to be the little girl who always needs protection. She wants to fight beside him, not be left behind. While Zio is explaining this, Shoker notices that she's untying herself. Shoker quickly tells her not to do that. But Zio, with a smile on her face, says she's willing to continue the experiment for a little longer. She reassures Shoker that nothing bad will happen as long as she's there. She suggests they wait a little longer and let her experience the despair of death, believing that this might be the key to unlocking her powers. Hearing this, Shoker is scared. She thinks to herself that Zio is terrifying. Even though she knows Zio won't die, the idea of being put through near-death tests repeatedly is so extreme that it makes her feel numb. Shoker hopes that, despite everything, the experiment will succeed and that Zio's suffering won't have been in vain. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The story shifts to the Eclipse group, who had returned to the Icebreaker, a ship they had hidden in the harbor. As they slowly sailed away from the shore, the group was led by Phoenix Wren. The remaining 8 members stood on the deck, gazing solemnly in the direction of the land they were leaving behind. Although they had come together as a desperate band of outlaws, formed in the heat of battle, the bond they had forged through their journey made the loss of their fallen comrades all the more painful. 5 of their own had perished, and from the depths of their hearts, they mourned them in silence. Once the mourning had concluded, Phoenix Rin prepared for his next destination, and with a serious expression he informs the party that this battle was unexpected as Mayumi's prediction was affected, but overall, they won. Next, they need to create more chaos for the enemy and then seize the opportunity to negotiate with the Jainan region. Upon hearing this, Mumi filled up with guilt. She lowered her head and spoke in a sorrowful tone. Their deaths are because of me. I failed in my duty. My divination was wrong. Hearing this, Phoenix Rin quickly turned around, a gentle smile on his face as he placed his hands on her soft shoulders. Mumi, this is not your fault. We anticipated something would happen to Hanona, and you did your best to protect her. But no one could have predicted that the captain of the Heavenly God Squad would suddenly appear. Still, there is something strange about the deaths of the Kamaya group. A dark look flashed in Phoenix Rin's eyes. Those four were important combatants, and now that they're gone, we will feel the impact. At that moment, Jinguji Sero pushed his glasses up, his voice cold and calculated. Among the people we encountered, there was one particularly dangerous individual. Everyone turned to him, their gazes sharp with curiosity. A dangerous guy? How dangerous? More so than Dang Shinton? Phoenix Ren asked with a smirk. Jinguji Sero shook his head, his expression grave. No, it was a completely different feeling. He recalled the encounter vividly, an involuntary shiver running down his spine. Kamaya and Akutsu were both gravely injured before they were killed. But regardless of their condition, they shouldn't have been able to die from a single bullet. That person? He is a powerful space ability user. The bullets from his gun hold power far beyond what a normal weapon should have. He paused before continuing. If he were merely a sniper, it would be easy to counter him. However, when I sent my two Shikigami after him, they were devoured instantly. A heavy silence fell over the group. Jinguji Sero was one of the strongest members of Eclipse Moon, and his Shikigami were known for their extraordinary abilities, each comparable to a Delta-class mutant. Yet, this mysterious marksman had neutralized them effortlessly. His level of strength was clearly beyond the norm. At this moment, Sakamoto Naga spoke up, his voice calm yet firm. If you're referring to that guy, I believe I have a memory of him as well. Everyone turned their attention to him. Naga continued indifferently. Nakako Mizumi and Takashi Taisa went after him. They were probably killed by his hands as well. A collective realization dawned upon them. 4 of their 5 fallen comrades had been slain by the same individual. Who the hell is this guy? Phoenix Rin muttered, his expression dark and contemplative. Momi Takeuchi's expression also grew serious as she connected the dots. That man, he's the reason my prophecy failed. He wasn't supposed to be there. Anyone who crosses paths with him, their fate changes. She took a deep breath, her voice barely above a whisper. He is the person outside of destiny. A tense silence enveloped the group as the weight of her words sank in. In the next operation, she continued, if this person interferes again, it will be disastrous for us, unless we find a way to eliminate him. Phoenix Ren narrowed his eyes. There's no rush. I want to know more about this sniper first. There will be a chance to kill him. With that, the icebreaker continued its slow journey, leaving the coast behind as it sailed toward the southern sea. Meanwhile, in Blizzard City, Zhang Yi and the others were confined to a designated residence, arranged by the city officials. Although they weren't allowed to roam freely, they were treated well. The food was exquisite, and there was an unlimited supply of hot water. An incredible luxury in an age where energy sources like gas and coal were scarce. With no urgent missions, Zhang Yi had time to rest. He retrieved the corpses of the 4 Eclipse Moon members he had killed from his dimensional space. These 4, all of them are elite-level deltas. If I absorb their power, I should become much stronger. Excited at the prospect, he reached out and placed his hand on one of the corpses. As always, the familiar sensation of power absorption coursed through him. But something was off. He frowned. The boost in power he felt was minimal, far less than what he had expected. What's going on? He murmured, puzzled. He had noticed this phenomenon before when he absorbed the abilities of Day City's mutants. At first, he thought they were simply too weak, but now he was absorbing elite combatants, and the effect was still disappointing. Could it be I've reached a bottleneck? As soon as the thought entered his mind, it made sense. If his power could grow infinitely through devouring, there would be no limit to how strong a mutant could become. Clearly, there were restrictions. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, he reasoned. At least now, I won't be completely outmatched by those Blizzard City elites. Rather than waste these powerful corpses, Zhang Yi decided to share the energy. He called over Liang Yu and Flower. When Liang Yu saw what he was offering, she looked at him in shock. Her face flushed slightly as she accepted his gift. Flower, on the other hand, had no reservations. It pounced on the corpse, devouring the energy greedily. However, after consuming one, even Flower seemed to struggle with the overwhelming power. Zhang Yi watched in fascination. The base of a martial grandmaster is too deep. I wonder just how powerful Yang Yu can become. Afterwards, while Yang Yu and Flower focused on absorbing their newfound strength, Zhang Yi found himself with nothing to do. He attempted to call Bi Chongqing, but his phone was offline. It wasn't surprising. Chongqing was likely in the combat center, discussing strategies with Su Jiang and the others. Since it was a high-level meeting, communication devices were probably prohibited. With limited options, he decided to pass the time chatting with his teammates, Qin Shasha and Pingli. Over time, their attitude toward him had shifted drastically. He had saved both of their lives, earning their gratitude and admiration. Now, they frequently sought him out to talk. For Zhang Yi, who had nowhere else to go, it was a welcome distraction. But a few days later, a message from Yang Xin changed everything. Information on Eclipse Moon had arrived. As Zhang Yi delved into the details, he stumbled upon something fascinating, an in-depth account of Mumi Takeuchi's lineage. Her family had a long history dating back to the martial age, entrusted with recording history not in writing, but by oral tradition. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed. Could it be that her supernatural ability isn't memory, but prophecy? Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. After reading everything about her, Zhang Yi started to think. If what is written about her is true, that means the most terrifying opponent in the Eclipse group isn't their leader or any other mutant but Mayumi Takeuchi. She is the real power behind the whole Eclipse group and its victories in battle. Realizing how overpowered her prediction abilities were, Zhang Yi began to wonder. If she could predict every outcome in battle, why didn't she warn the mutants on the battlefield who died by his hands? If she truly foresaw every event, why hadn't she given them a chance to avoid their fate? He considered the possibility that their main objective had been to take out the Celestial team, so they hadn't paid attention to the mutants from the outer city. But that couldn't be the case. They had no way of knowing that those mutants weren't actually part of the team and were just there to provide support. There has to be a weakness to this ability. If he could figure that out, the rest of the Eclipse group wouldn't be an issue. As he was formulating a plan, his phone buzzed with a text message. He read that he was being summoned to the combat center the next morning and was reminded in the message not to leave the city. Reading the message, Zhang Yi wondered if the command center had already come up with a way to counter Mayumi Takeuchi's ability. The story fast-forwards to the next day, where we see Bailey Chongqing, who had also arrived to see the commander. He greeted Zhang Yi and overheard him apologizing, saying that he might get into trouble because of him. Zhang Yi explained that Bailey had helped him conceal his strength from the command center. As they were talking, they noticed Lan Xingchang approaching. Despite having seen him many times before, both of them still felt a strong dislike for him. Lan Xingchang greeted them and told them to follow him. The commander has been waiting for you for a long time. The two followed him to the commander's office on the second floor. Upon reaching the door, Lan Xingchang let them in and then left, allowing them to discuss their next move with the commander in private. Inside, the atmosphere felt tense. The commander sat deep in thought, his expression unreadable. As Zhang Yi and Bailey approached, he finally noticed them and gestured for them to sit. He began by thanking Zhang Yi for his contributions in the battle against the Eclipse group, admitting that he was surprised when he saw him fight. I never expected you to be this powerful. Then, he pointed at Bailey Chongqing. You did an excellent job hiding his strength from us. Even our region's investigation team wasn't able to figure it out. Zhang Yi quickly responded, That wasn't his fault. I was the one who told him to do that. He bowed slightly in apology. I hope you can understand. Hearing that, the commander simply shook his head. I'm not mad. The fact that you're cautious enough to hide your abilities is an excellent quality. On the battlefield, soldiers like you are the ones who survive to the end. Zhang Yi thanked him but added humbly, my strength is still nothing compared to the Blizzard City elites. The commander sighed. We are living in an era of great changes. The role of an ordinary soldier is getting weaker every day. No matter how skilled a soldier is, he can hardly affect the outcome of a battle against mutants. He leaned forward, his gaze serious. This battle taught us all a lesson. Power and intelligence are the keys to victory. I was too conceited before, and because of that, we suffered greatly. A heavy silence filled the room as the weight of his words settled in. Then, the commander looked at Zhang Yi with determination. I want revenge. I want to avenge our fallen soldiers. And to do that, we need powerful mutants. Zhang Yi, will you lead the team and carry out the next mission? Both Zhang Yi and Bailey were shocked. The room fell silent as Zhang Yi pondered the proposal, but as he thought it over, his lips curled into a smile. He had finally found a way to take on Mayumi Takeuchi and her divination ability. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. After thinking over his proposal, Zhang Yi started to think that he knew he was going to ask him to take command of the city's forces after seeing his abilities in battle. But he never expected him to be this desperate, that he would decide so quickly, and wonders how he should refuse this offer. He tells the commander that he does not think he is capable enough to take on such a heavy responsibility and asks if he can't find someone more suitable for this role. Hearing that, the commander explains the situation to him and tells Zhang Yi that Mayumi Takeuchi of the Eclipse Group has the ability to predict future events. So any move they make against the Eclipse Group will be predicted by her, and they will be a step ahead of them, just like the last time. They can't even rely on the weapon of mass destruction in this fight, as they will just escape before they can even launch it. He explains to Zhang Yi that he can't think of any other way, as she predicts his next moves before he can even think about it. Hearing everything, Bailey Chongqing asks if that is the case, then how come Zhang Yi managed to take out 4 of their members? If her abilities were so powerful, why didn't she warn those mutants about their fate? Hearing him say that, the commander tells him they were also thinking about that, and what they found out was that she was unable to predict Zhang Yi's movements in battle. Her prediction abilities weren't working on him either, which is why she wasn't able to warn those mutants about their demise by his hands. After that, he asks Zhang Yi to tell them what method he used that not even someone like Mayumi Takeuchi, with the ability to predict the future, was able to know what he was going to do. Zhang Yi tells him he doesn't know that either, as during the battle, he also noticed that something was wrong after seeing how those mutants were operating against the Celestial team. But whenever he came in contact with them, he easily took them out. As he was telling him this, he thinks that Mayumi Takeuchi uses her abilities to see the future of an individual, but she can't see is probably because he is already dead in the original timeline and didn't originally belong to this timeline. So her powers don't work on someone like him. As he was thinking everything, the commander thinks that he is definitely hiding something from him. So he decides to make an offer to Zhang Yi and tells him that for this operation, he plans to integrate the remnants of the Tenjin Squad and the Black Robe Squad to form a new team and will be naming the team as Tengu. He tells Zhang Yi that if he is willing to become the captain of this team, he will promote him to be a captain and will provide him with all the resources he needs for this battle. Hearing that, Zhang Yi started to giggle, thinking that he thinks he will be able to persuade him with that offer, while Bailey Chongqing thinks that it hasn't even been a month since he has been made the captain, and now he is being demoted. Zhang Yi tells the captain that he isn't interested in becoming a captain, but he wants to help take out the Eclipse Group anyway and asks if they will be providing him with the supplies that he will need. Hearing that, the commander tells him he has his full support and can have any weapon he wants. But before he could say anything else, he is reminded that Zhang Yi was still an outsider mutant, so it wasn't a good idea to allow him access to the armory like that. Hearing that, the captain thinks he almost gave him all the belongings of Blizzard City, so he changes his offer and tells him to make a list of the things he needs, and they will be delivered to him. Hearing that, Zhang Yi tells him he doesn't mind that offer either and tells him he will send him a list later, but for right now, he will be needing a batch of top-notch equipment, especially those combat suits. He needs more of those. Hearing that, the commander asks why he was asking for so many sets. Is he perhaps planning on giving them to his friends? Zhang Yi tells him yes and informs him that he just wants one suit for himself. He will be redeeming the rest with his points and asks if they could provide him with enough suits. The commander informs him that as long as he wants to redeem them, he can have as many as he likes. While thinking that as long as he joins the team to destroy the Eclipse group, he doesn't mind what he wants. He will agree to his every condition. Seeing him smiling, Zhang Yi tells him that he agreed he will participate in this operation, but that doesn't mean that he is planning on joining Blizzard City and will return to his base as soon as this mission is over. To which the commander tells him he has time to think that over, so he shouldn't make a decision right now. After the meeting was over, Zhang Yi asks for permission to leave. The commander tells him he can and informs him that he is going to meet a very special person today, so he should be ready. Hearing that, both of them ask who he was talking about, to which the commander tells them that they are planning to contact several more investigation teams that are performing missions abroad and cooperate with them to take out the Eclipse group. To which they ask what team will be coming to join them, and hear the commander saying that he has asked the help of the Samsara team for this mission. Hearing that, Bailey Chongqing gets excited and tells Zhang Yi that if the Samsara team joins them, their chances of winning are much better as they have very powerful mutants. The commander informs them that the other team will also be very useful in this mission. In the past, he tried to call them to fight against the Eclipse group, but they were busy with an important mission, so they weren't able to spare the time. Now that their mission is over, they rushed back as soon as they got the news from him. He tells Zhang Yi that with both of their teams' combined strength, there is no way the Eclipse group would be able to take them on. Hearing everything, Zhang Yi thinks that he has no idea who these people are talking about, but for some reason, it has Bailey Chongqing excited. He thinks maybe it's a good chance for him to go back and ask Bailey Chongqing about the other thing. He tells the commander that he has no problem working with those people and asks if he can leave now. After which, he gets up and starts to exit the room without saying anything. Seeing him going, Bailey Chongqing also prepares to leave, but gets stopped by the commander. He asks if everything was all right, to which the commander tells him he did very well hiding Zhang Yi's abilities from him, but he doesn't want this to happen a second time. Seeing his expression, Bailey gets scared and tells him he understands. After that, he comes out of the room, thinking that he dodged a bullet for the time being. As he was preparing to leave, he sees Zhang Yi standing to the side and asks if he is all right. He tells Zhang Yi that everything was okay. The commander just gave him some words of encouragement and told him to work hard. As they start to move, Bailey thinks that the captain just wants to save his own tail by using Zhang Yi, and hears him saying that he wants to go to the infirmary, as he wants the combat suit, after which he will provide them with the list of other equipment. To this, Bailey asks him if he was sure it was the right decision to redeem the suits, as they are quite expensive. Zhang Yi changes the topic and tells him that he doesn't need anything else for the time being. He comments that the captain should have given him permission to choose any weapon or equipment from the infirmary, as they were going against the Eclipse group. Hearing that, Bailey tells him a secret about this place and informs him that he was underestimating the foundation of the region, as the real good stuff is not the stuff he sees. Zhang Yi asks what he was talking about, to which Bailey tells him that those weapons and equipment can only enhance his basic combat effectiveness, but this place also has genetic drugs that have the ability to increase his upper limit of abilities. He asks if he was talking about the ones that have serious side effects after use, just like the ones that were used by Bian Junwu. Bailey informs him that Captain Bian was among the first batch of trial users, and now, after continuous improvement, the performance of the supernatural medicine has become more and more stable. He flexes his biceps, saying, as he can see, there is nothing wrong with his body, but Zhang Yi refuses to take such drugs to enhance his power. Hearing that, Bailey suggests that he get a copy of Compound Number 5 just in case, which is an explosive potion that can give him a huge amount of power in a short period of time. He also warns him that it has extremely serious side effects, as it is a high-potency stimulant. He tells Zhang Yi that he always carries a copy with him just to save his life in a dangerous situation, and tells him that the redemption points for that thing are very high, and not everyone can afford it. Zhang Yi asks why he didn't use it when he was in Tian High City, and hears him saying that if he hadn't given the captain the Ice Soul, he would have used it. Hearing everything, Zhang Yi wonders if he should redeem one just in case as they were going. Zhang Yi asks Bailey about the strength of the Samsara team and how they compare against his Black Robe team and Deng Shintong's Celestial team. Bailey tells him that when they arrive, he will take him over to show it to him and guarantees that he will be surprised when he finds out who their captain is. Hearing that, Zhang Yi says it looks like he has no other choice but to wait. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The story fast-forwards to the weapons exchange room, where Zhang Yi was telling the man that he was here to redeem the ALDS2 suits. The man informs him that he currently has 420 million points on his card and that there is no limit to how many battle suits he can buy. He then asks if he wants to continue with the purchase. Hearing that, Zhang Yi stops to think for a moment about whether he should spend all those points on these suits. After thinking over everything, he decides to check other things in the armory before purchasing the suits and tells the man to check if he has enough authority to redeem compound number 5. The man informs our hero that compound number 5 requires level A redemption authority and 100 million redemption points, and he meets these conditions. He asks if he would like to purchase it, to which Zhang Yi tells him he wants to redeem one while thinking that it would be better for him to buy this instead, take it to the shelter, and let Zhou Qier and Lu Karen analyze its ingredients to see if they can produce it themselves. As the man was preparing his order, Zhang Yi asks what other compounds they have. The man informs him that they have compound number 1, which increases the probability of awakening by 20% and can be redeemed with 150 million points. Compound number 2, which strengthens abilities and can help mutants evolve to a certain extent, but its effect is limited by the user's own qualifications and is unpredictable. It costs 120 million points. Compound number 4, a military-grade stimulant that can increase the strength of a mutant by 20% within 12 hours of use. However, the side effects are significant and may include dizziness, vomiting, and dehydration. It costs 20 million points. After hearing the details, Zhang Yi inquires why the man skipped compound number 3. The man tells him that compound number 3 isn't on the redemption list. Hearing that, Zhang Yi asks for the reason and why the prices of these drugs are so high. Bailey Chongqing responds, saying that if he becomes a member of the Blizzard City investigation team, he will get much better pricing, and some materials that aren't available to the public can also be purchased. Hearing that, Zhang Yi asks him to redeem everything for him, saying he will transfer the funds to his account later. However, Bailey Chongqing tells him that's not going to work, as to exchange such special items, one must be registered in the system. So even if he wants to, he can't buy the things for him. Hearing that, Zhang Yi gets disappointed and tells the man to just exchange all the points for the drugs while thinking that he shouldn't worry too much about these suits. He is sure the commander will definitely give them to him when he goes to fight the Eclipse Moon. So, it would be better to exchange the points for the potions and give them to Lu Karen and Shou Karen so they can research them and, if possible, recreate these potions themselves. After some time, his order gets ready, and the man tells him that his total came to 390 million points and hands him his things. Zhang Yi puts everything in his space and tells Bailey Chongqing that if there isn't anything else left to do, he will head back to Tianhai City. Hearing that, Bailey tells Zhang Yi that the people from the Samsara team happen to be back today, so it would be better for him to meet them first and then ask permission from the commander to leave for Tianhai City. However, Zhang Yi tells him he doesn't want to do that, as he isn't the captain of the team, so he's not in a hurry to see them. Hearing that, Bailey tells Zhang Yi that there is no one more suited to be the captain. But even if he isn't a captain, he wanted to introduce him to the captain of the Samsara team, as he is his good friend. Hearing that he was Bailey's friend, Zhang Yi agrees to go with him to see who this person was. After some time, both of them are seen coming out to meet with the team and see a huge crowd of people already waiting for the Samsara team to arrive. As they walk toward them, Zhang Yi overhears the crowd calling the Samsara team the pride of the common people, unlike the Celestial team. They say that Gao Changkong is their pride and is much more powerful compared to Deng Shenong, as, unlike Deng, Gao came from an ordinary family but still managed to achieve everything on his own. Seeing how everyone is reacting, Zhang Yi is stunned, while Bailey asks if he now sees how big of a star the captain of the Samsara team is. To this, Zhang Yi comments that shouldn't these people be working instead of wasting their time like this? Bailey Chongqing tells him that the girls waiting for the team to arrive are either from families engaged in high-end professions who earn enough points to support themselves or are just desperate to try their luck with the captain. He comments that what they are doing is quite risky because if they don't save enough points due to skipping work, they will have to sleep on the street. They won't even have points left to buy food, hot water, or electricity. Seeing how much this person is loved, Zhang Yi recalls that Gao Changkong, who is currently the captain of the Samsara team, was the one who dominated the country before the apocalypse and later entered the NBA, playing for the Akaji Red Suns. He asks Bailey Chongqing if he was talking about that Gao Changkong and hears him confirm it, calling him an amazing person. Seeing how famous he is, Zhang Yi comments that no matter before or after the end of the world, he is outstanding and dazzling. Eventually, the armored vehicle arrives with Gao Chong, and the crowd goes even louder upon seeing him. Zhu Yung also comes out to greet Gao Chong in the city along with his guards. Eventually, Gao Chong steps out of the car, and as he stands in front of everyone, the girls start screaming for him. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. As both of them approach each other, Zhu Yung thanks him for his efforts against eliminating their enemies and informs him that the captain was very pleased with his accomplishments. To which Lao Gao tells him he was only doing his job and thanks the whole Blizzard City for recognizing them. After the greetings, Zhu Yung informs him that they will be leaving first, so he should head out to get some rest. And after he is ready, he needs to go and see the commander who has been waiting for him. After Zhu Yung leaves, he spots Bailey in the crowd and calls out to him. Seeing this, Bailey tells Zhang Yi to follow him as he wants to introduce both of them to each other. As they make their way through the crowds, everyone present looking at Zhang Yi wonders who this person is with Bailey Chongqing of the Black Robe team. Someone in the crowd comments that the Black Robe team is also half defunct now, just like the Celestial team. As they approach Lao Gao, he gives Bailey a hug, and Bailey congratulates him on a successful mission and asks if he encountered any trouble during his trip to Baiting Lake. To which Lao Gao informs him that fortunately they didn't face any serious trouble this time, as the mutant that they faced was powerful but he wasn't very smart. And the reason it took them longer than expected was because this mutant had a lot of followers, so they had to take care of all of them before coming back. After that, he asks about our hero's identity, and Bailey introduces him to Lao Gao and tells him his name is Zhang Yi, who is from Tianhai City. He says that his story is very long, so they should head back, after which he will tell him everything about him. Hearing that, both of them shake hands, and Gao Changkong introduces himself to Zhang Yi as the captain of the Samsara team and hears Zhang Yi saying that he had long admired his name. After the introductions, Zhang Yi looks at the whole team and realizes that the team consists of 9 mutants, and the 2 standing alongside him are his deputy captains. Meanwhile, Lao Gao was thanking the crowd for showing all their love and support towards them, and seeing him waving at them, the crowd goes wild and starts to cheer for him. While Zhang Yi was looking at all of this and was thinking that it is true that the most fearless person is the ignorant one who is stuck in his old ways and always carries an arrogant heart and despises his opponent. But little does that person know that ignorance will be his downfall. After they were done with everything, Lao Gao tells Bailey that he will head to the headquarters to report the mission to the commander, and after that, they can find a place to have a drink, as he had been outside Blizzard City for so long and wanted to catch up to everything. Hearing that, Bailey asked if he wasn't informed of all the events that happened in Blizzard City while he was absent, to which Lao Gao informs him that he does know a little bit about the situation as the commander told him about an eclipse group that they have to take out, but he does not know the details of what was actually going on and says that they should talk about this somewhere else. Hearing that, Bailey tells him that they can get together later and they can discuss everything in somewhere more private. The story fast forwards and we see them all entering the car, preparing to leave. As they enter, Lao Gao inquires about the eclipse group, and seeing them both acting this way, Zhang Yi thinks that both of them have a really good relationship. Bailey informs Lao Gao that the mission was a chaos, as almost all the members of the Celestial team were wiped out and only 3 people survived the attack. Hearing that, Lao Gao was shocked and asks if Dang failed in the mission and perished by the hands of the eclipse group. Bailey tells him yes and points towards Zhang Yi, saying that when he meets the commander, he will tell him all the details of that day. But this person sitting behind them took out 4 members of the eclipse group all by himself. Lao Gao turns towards Zhang Yi in amazement, asking if it was really true. Zhang Yi tries to downplay it, saying that two of the mutants were already injured, so it wasn't very hard to take care of them. Lao Gao, however, looks him in the eye and says, "Our country has vast territories, a prosperous population, and countless geniuses. It doesn't mean that only those born in big cities or with privileged backgrounds have powerful abilities. Zhang Yi, don't underestimate yourself. Your potential is far greater than you realize." After that, he turns around and with a concerned look starts thinking that in order to join forces with the Eclipse group to overthrow the commander, they must first get rid of this troublesome guy. The story fast forwards, and we see the squad who had arrived outside a bar where Bailey was asking Gao about his report and comments that his meeting with the commander was rather quick, to which Gao tells them that the commander talks really quickly, so it didn't take him too long to report everything to him. Eventually, they arrive inside the bar, where they are greeted by the bartender. He welcomes Gao and congratulates him on his mission's success, and they notice that everyone present in the bar is looking at them. Gao is surprised to see how everyone in the bar is acting towards him and hears the bartender saying that everyone is wishing him good luck in his upcoming mission to take out the Eclipse group. He tells him that he is the only hope the city has. As they are doing that, the bar manager also approaches them and thanks Gao for his work in keeping the city safe. He tells Gao that the drinks for this day are on the house for him and his friends. After that, they are seen sitting in a VIP area, where Gao tells Bailey that it feels weird being treated like this by everyone and asks why he wasn't treated like this in the past. To this, Bailey tells him that everyone has high hopes for him now, since he proved his strength in his previous mission. But Gao tells Bailey that wasn't the real reason. He says that with the defeat of the Celestial team at the hands of the Eclipse group, the whole city was panicking, and with him now back, all of them have their hopes pinned on him to take out the Eclipse group, so they made him the hero of Blizzard City. Hearing that, Bailey tells him that everyone was devastated by the news of Deng Shintong's defeat, along with many other elite mutants of their city, but now, with him back, things are starting to get back to normal. Gao turns towards Zhang Yi and informs him that the commander spoke highly of him, which was surprising, as from what he had heard, Zhang Yi must be on the level of the investigation captain or detachment leader in Yinyun's troops in Blizzard City. Hearing that, Zhang Yi starts to smile and tells Gao that it is a huge compliment that he compared his strength with his own. He tells him he still has a lot to learn, to which Gao comments that Zhang Yi is too humble. After that, both of them make a toast to their new friendship and drink their drinks. After that, Bailey asks Gao about his meeting with the commander and asks if he can fill him in on some of the details if it isn't too much trouble. Gao informs him that they didn't talk about much except for merging the Tenjin squad and the Black Robe squad to form the Tengu squad. After this, he turns towards Zhang Yi, saying that the captain told him that he very much hopes he will serve as the captain of the team. Hearing that, Zhang Yi tells him he has no intention of becoming a captain of the team, as he is just a mere warehouse manager in Tianhai City and doesn't have the leadership skills nor enough courage to lead troops in battle. He asks that now that Gao is back and already in charge of this operation, why doesn't he just manage the Tengu team as well? He is sure that, with all his experience from past missions, he would be an excellent commander of the Tengu team. Hearing that, Gao tells Zhang Yi that it isn't possible for him to lead the team, as the senior management would not be willing to hand over the Celestial team and the Black Robe team to him. Zhang Yi comments that it is such a shame, as he would have been an excellent captain for both teams. He asks if he could inquire about Gao's previous mission. Gao tells him it depends on what he wants to ask, as he can't relay the details of the mission to anyone but the commander himself. Hearing that, Zhang Yi asks that there are 6 investigation teams in the Jiangnan region, and they have been out on missions for a long time. Even after the appearance of the Eclipse group, none of the teams were recalled to take on this threat. He asks if their missions were much more important and dangerous compared to the Celestial team. Hearing that, Gao starts to smile and explains that every mission is unique in its own way, and the teams sent out to complete these missions are chosen according to the type and difficulty of the mission. He tells Zhang Yi that in his recent mission, their team was sent out to neutralize mutated beasts that were occupying the 5 cities around Biting Lake. These cities contained tribes of the beasts, and it took them 3 months to take down these tribes and free the cities from the mutated monsters. Hearing that, Zhang Yi is amazed that this person went against massive beast tribes and managed to neutralize them. He asks if the other teams are also taking on such dangerous tasks, and hears him say that their missions are of similar difficulty on a city scale. After this, Zhang Yi raises his glass for Gao's mission's success and wishes him good luck in his fight against the Eclipse Group. Bailey also joins in and hopes that they can make the world a better place through their future cooperation. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The story shifts to the commander's office, and we see him on the phone talking with Zhang Yi while another person is seen sitting right in front of him. Zhang Yi was telling the commander that he wants to leave for his home to take care of an urgent business. The commander gave him permission and told him to finish his work quickly and return as soon as possible, as after the reincarnation team comes back, they will start the next round of combat operations immediately, and they need him with them when that happens. After the call, he turns towards Deng and tells him that everything is ready now and all they have to do is get their plan into motion. He asks if he has any questions about the mission. The man asks if the team captain has been decided. Hearing that, the commander tells him that they are still deciding on that and informs him that Zhang Yi is an excellent candidate for this position, but he is unwilling to assume the responsibility of captain. He explains that Zhang Yi is a powerful mutant and will contribute a lot in this operation, but that is not the main reason he wants him to participate in this mission. The main reason is his ability to block the abilities of Takuchi Mayumi, so it doesn't really matter if he takes the position of the captain as long as he is participating in this mission. After that, he informs him that he was thinking of making Bailey Chongqing the captain of the team. Hearing that, the man disagrees with him, saying that Bailey does not possess the ability to command a team of powerful mutants, and the command power cannot be handed over to Gao Chongqing. So that leaves them with Zhang Yi, who is the best candidate right now, and he asks if his offer wasn't high enough for him to refuse the position. He then asks what the commander offered Zhang Yi in return. The commander informs him that he offered him to become the official captain of the investigation team, told him he would be able to enjoy Blizzard City's A-level material supply treatment, and basically extended the exchange rights to the weapons warehouse to him. He says that this is a very high salary for him. Hearing everything, the man tells the commander that he was a soldier and didn't know how to do business. He explains that in business, everyone gets what they need. So if he wants Zhang Yi to agree to his conditions, he must also meet his requirements. That confuses the commander, and he asks what he was trying to say. The man laughs, saying that if this matter is difficult for him, he can leave it to him, and he will convince Zhang Yi to take the position of the commander. Hearing that, the commander starts to wonder when this man became so generous that he wants to help him and wonders what he could be planning. As he is in his thoughts, he hears the man saying that if he succeeds in convincing Zhang Yi, the commander has to promise him one thing. The commander thinks that he knew this person would never do something without an alternative motive and asks what he wants. The man tells the commander that next time Zhang Yi takes the lead in this mission against the Eclipse Group, he wants to publicize his reputation. The commander asks if he was worried that Gao Chongqing will gain too much prestige in Blizzard City because of this incident, which will affect his family's reputation, to which the man comments that no one wants their subordinates to be so successful that they start to overshadow their own masters. Hearing that, the commander agrees to his conditions. After the meeting is over, the man gets up and tells the commander that he will be in charge of convincing Zhang Yi to take the captaincy of the team. As he is about to leave, the commander asks how his family was doing after the death of Deng at the hands of the Eclipse Group. He hears him saying that the incident hit everyone hard, so he is planning on avenging Deng's death. The scene shifts to Zhang Yi, who had arrived back in Tianhai City. Seeing him there, Su Chengli starts to rush towards him, asking why he took so long to come back as he was so worried about him. Seeing him break down in tears, Zhang Yi gets startled and tells him he was all right. He asks how things were in Tianhai City while he was gone, to which Su Chengli tells him everything was all right, but that mushroom cloud that appeared a couple of days earlier scared all of them. Zhang Yi assures him there is nothing to worry about as everything was under control and asks where everyone was. Su Chengli informs him that Uncle Yu has been practicing boxing in the third basement recently. He said that this might allow him to achieve a breakthrough in his abilities, while Zhou Qier and the others were in the infirmary. He says he doesn't know what they are up to. Hearing that, Zhang Yi starts to leave for the infirmary, saying he'll go and see them. As he arrives outside the room, he hears water splashing inside and wonders what is going on. He thinks if they were practicing swimming in there to make that much noise. A big smile forms on his face when he imagines Zhou Qier in her swimsuit. and he starts to wonder if he should join in. With a cheerful expression, he opens the door to the room, but what he sees in front of him shocks him to his core. He sees Xin tied to a bed, struggling and looking visibly weak from being tortured. We see Zhang Yi looking at Zhou and Xin in confusion, wondering what both of them are up to. He hears Zhou saying that this is their 37th experiment attempt and wonders if this time they will succeed. Noticing Zhang Yi, Xin sits up as a bright yellow light emanates from her eyes and body. She greets Zhang Yi with a creepy smile. All of a sudden, an angel-like being appears, hovering over her, which startles both Zhang Yi and Zhou, while Xin is completely oblivious to it. As she realizes that they succeeded in the experiment, she tells Zhang Yi that he arrived at the right time, as she has now also become a mutant. As soon as she says those words, her body gives out, and she falls back onto the bed, fainting from the stress of her power. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi, still unable to process what was going on, asks Zhou what they were doing and what that angelic being hovering over Xin just now was. Zhou, who was untying Xin, starts to explain everything to Zhang Yi. She informs him that Xin came to her after learning of a method that had the possibility of awakening powers inside a normal human, by constantly bringing them to the brink of death and healing them. She explains that she was against this idea as it was too dangerous, but Xin kept obsessing over it, so she had no other choice but to help her with this experiment, fearing that she would try doing it on her own. Hearing this, Zhang Yi tells her she did the right thing and praises her for working hard and helping Xin awaken her powers. Zhou, however, tells him that wasn't true. It was Xin who had been enduring all these experiments, knowing full well that this could endanger her life, while all she did was heal her afterwards so she wouldn't die. Hearing everything, Zhang Yi approaches Xin and calls her crazy for doing something so reckless. He thinks about how she did all of this for him and endured all that pain because she thought she was being a burden on everyone. After that, he turns towards Zhou and tells her to follow him to meet Karen, as he has something he wants to show them so they can help him study its composition. Zhou wonders what it could be and tells him to lead the way. After some time, both of them arrive at Karen's workshop. Zhang Yi sees her working on something, and as she notices Zhang Yi, she greets him and inquires about his trip to Blizzard City, asking if he was injured during the mission. Zhang Yi tells her he is perfectly fine and thanks her for asking, assuring her that he didn't sustain any major injuries during the battle. Hearing that, Karen gives a sigh of relief and asks how things were in Blizzard City, also inquiring about the Eclipse group, whether they managed to wipe them out. Zhang Yi tells her that it's a long story and that he will tell everyone about it later. He then brings out the amplification drugs, saying that he needs help in analyzing their efficiency and side effects so he can determine how effective they are. He tells them he hopes to reproduce these drugs and asks them to do their best. However, he reassures them not to worry. Even if they aren't able to reproduce them, the important thing is that they try. He hands them the drugs, and Zhou observes the bottles, asking what kind of medicine this was. Zhang Yi explains that he spent a huge amount of points to redeem these from Blizzard City. He tells them that these are said to be genetic drugs that can amplify the intensity of a mutant's powers and even increase the probability of awakening supernatural powers in non-mutated humans. Hearing this, both girls are amazed, thinking that the Jiangnan region managed to produce something so powerful. They say that if they are able to reproduce these medicines in their own labs, they can greatly increase their strength. Zhou gets excited and tells Zhang Yi that she will head to the infirmary to study the composition of these drugs to see if she can find a way to remake them. However, Zhang Yi tells her there's no rush and asks both of them to join him for a meal first. He says that after Xin wakes up, he will fill them in on all the details of the mission and what happened in the fight against the Eclipse group. The story fast forwards, and we see Zhang Yi sitting in the dining room with everyone, while Xin tells him that now she can be of more help to him since she has awakened as a mutant. Zhang Yi, however, reassures her that she has always been helpful to him in all his battles. After that, he asks what kind of powers she awakened after the experiments. Xin leans in closer and whispers in his ear, asking if he wants to test them himself. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. We see Zhang Yi asking Xin about her power, and asking if it wasn't an offensive type ability. Hearing that, Xin tells Zhang Yi that her ability is so dangerous that she can't even think about using it on him, and that scares Zhang Yi. So, in a stuttering voice, he asks what exactly her power does that makes it so dangerous. He hears her explaining that her ability is called Angel of Desire, which grants her the extraordinary ability to control people's hearts and emotions. She explained to everyone gathered in the room that she gained a unique power. Anyone who is struck by the arrow of the angel will have their emotions intensely amplified, whether it's love, hatred, or any other feeling. With this power at her disposal, she can manipulate and control their hearts, bending their desires and emotions to her will. She looked at Zhang Yi with an excited face and told him that it was a wonderful ability to be able to play with the hearts of anyone at will. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi was freaking out, hearing everything and observing how she was reacting to her new powers. He couldn't help but think that this kind of ability suited her perfectly, but he also wondered why she had to gain such a disturbing power. Zhang Yi decided to stay vigilant around her, just in case she decided to use that power on him, making him fall in love or hate someone against his will. The thought of being manipulated like that sent shivers down his spine, and he knew he had to be cautious in her presence. So, to change the subject, Zhang Yi quickly turned around and began reaching for the food on the table. In an attempt to stay on her good side, he offered her some food from his portion and told her to eat up. He hoped that this gesture would divert her attention from her new, unsettling powers and foster a sense of camaraderie. As he handed her the food, he flashed a friendly smile, trying to ease the tension and create a more relaxed atmosphere. As he was doing that, he hears Xin asking about his mission against the Eclipse group and if he encountered any danger when he went to destroy that group. This question caught the attention of everyone, and they waited to hear what Zhang Yi had to say. He informed everyone that the operation failed disastrously, with the Celestial team nearly being annihilated. He delivered the grim news that Captain Deng Shentong, the esteemed leader of the Celestial team, had also lost his life in the ferocious battle. As he detailed the events, he revealed that the Eclipse group had a significant advantage due to someone within their ranks possessing the uncanny ability to foresee future events. This individual used their foresight to orchestrate the downfall of the Celestial team, strategically targeting and eliminating most of their members before they could even react. The revelation of such a powerful ability left everyone in shock, understanding now why the Celestial team was caught off guard and overwhelmed. Listening to everything, Su Chengli asked if the Jiangnan region was planning on using all their powers now to take out the Eclipse group and commented that there was no way they would fail this time. Then, Ling Yu said that it wouldn't be so easy to take them out, as even in the previous battle, if Zhang Yi hadn't suddenly come out and killed 4 Eclipse members, the battle would have been a complete and utter defeat. Uncle Yu also started to panic, thinking about everything. He wondered how powerful those mutants were that they managed to take out such a powerful team from Blizzard City. Just as he was saying that, all of them heard Xin say that she sensed a conspiracy in this matter, which took Zhang Yi by surprise. Curious, he asked her what she was talking about. Xin explained that, from the Celestial team, she had only seen Captain Bian Junwu, who was an exceptionally powerful mutant. She remarked that taking out such a formidable individual wouldn't be easy. Zhang Yi agreed, adding that if he didn't know about Bian Junwu's abilities, it would be difficult for him to take him out too. All of a sudden, a thought hit him, and he asked Xin, "Are you saying that it would have been impossible for the other party to kill Deng Shentong and other mutants from the Celestial team without knowing and understanding their abilities?" She told Zhang Yi that it seemed weird that none of their members survived and that they were taken out by the enemy's hands before Zhang Yi intervened. Someone had already informed them about their abilities, so they came prepared. Zhang Yi told her it was a possibility, but since they have a member with the ability to foresee the future, it wouldn't have been difficult for them to predict Deng's abilities. Xin explained that if it was possible for them to predict the abilities of their opponents, then how come they only managed to take out the Celestial team while the other mutants survived? That shocked everyone, and Zhang Yi asked if she was saying that there was a mole in Blizzard City. Zhou said that it was impossible, as Blizzard City was mostly composed of warriors and soldiers. There was nothing anyone from there would gain by cooperating with someone like the Eclipse group. Everyone else also agreed with her, saying that soldiers would never betray their own country. But Xin was still certain about the possibility of a spy in their ranks. She told them, "This may sound outrageous, But no matter how you look at it, if there wasn't an insider helping them, the Jiangnan region wouldn't have lost so miserably. Hearing everything, Zhang Yi started to wonder if this could be the work of Commander Zhu Zhang. As the prestige and power of the Deng family grew in Blizzard City, it threatened his position. Zhang Yi speculated that Commander Zhu Zhang might have felt cornered and saw an opportunity to secure his dominance by allying with the Eclipse Group. By orchestrating the fall of Deng Shentong, he could weaken the family's influence and regain control over the city. The thought of such betrayal and political maneuvering made Zhang Yi uneasy, realizing that the stakes were higher than he initially imagined. If his suspicions were correct, the battle against the Eclipse Group was not just about defeating their enemies, but also about navigating a treacherous web of power struggles within their own ranks. We see Xin telling Zhang Yi if he had ever thought about why Commander Zhu Zhang wants him to be the captain and lead a new investigation team. She comments that this seems suspicious, that he is so desperately trying to convince him to become the team captain. To this, Zhang Yi tells her that it is because his ability can help them deal with the Eclipse Group since they can't read his future, so they won't know what to expect. Xin tells him, exactly. Now that the goal of some people in Blizzard City is complete after the death of Captain Deng Shentong, all that is left is to deal with the Eclipse Group and drive them out of Huashu Kingdom. But the last thing they expected was to find an outsider who is capable of dealing with the Eclipse Group. After that, Commander Zhu Zhang's plan will be complete, and he will solidify his position in Blizzard City. Hearing everything, Zhang Yi understands that by pushing him, an outsider, to the forefront, as he has no foundation in Blizzard City, even if he completes this task, he won't pose a threat to the higher-ups. He tells Xin that she could be right about this and wonders how he is supposed to get out of this situation. Xin reassures him, saying that he shouldn't worry too much about it, as he is the safest person in Blizzard City. She adds that if he takes the position of captain, relative peace can be achieved within Blizzard City. Zhang Yi tells her he hopes she is right, but if the situation gets dangerous or he feels that his life is in danger, he will run away immediately to save himself. To this, Xin offers to go with him and says that she wants to help him with the mission. Zhang Yi flicks her forehead and tells her he can't guarantee that he will always be by her side to protect her if he takes her with him. He reminds her that he has no experience on a real battlefield and asks if she isn't afraid. Xin tells him she isn't afraid and that it would be better for him to take his own people since he can't trust anyone in Blizzard City. Uncle Yu also agrees with her and tells Zhang Yi that the people in Blizzard City may not be trustworthy, so they should rely on each other. He offers to join him in this mission. Zhang Yi informs him that the opponent this time isn't a joke. Even Blizzard City has carefully selected elites to participate in the battle. He tells Uncle Yu that he needs to think about this before making a decision. He tells all of them to eat up first, and after that, they can talk about this matter. The story fast-forwards to midnight, and we see Xin in her room when someone knocks on the door. As the door opens, she sees Zhang Yi standing outside. He shows her 2 guns and tells her that it is entirely up to her to decide if she wants to come with him. He explains that these 2 guns have very little recoil, so she should have no problem using them. He hands her the weapons and informs her that one of them contains origin bullets, which are used to deal with mutants, while the other one contains ordinary bullets, which are used to deal with regular people. Hearing that, she starts to check the weapons and tells Zhang Yi that she understands. Seeing her handling the weapons so skillfully, Zhang Yi asks if she has been practicing her marksmanship and was waiting for this chance to join him on the mission. Xin tells him yes, she had been practicing for this for a long time. Zhang Yi informs her that when they get to Blizzard City, they will get her a suitable suit to wear, and then let Hua be responsible for protecting her safety. He pats her head and tells her that when he gets to the battlefield, he will try his best to take her with him. However, when they encounter a powerful mutant, she must stay away from him. After that, Xin hugs Zhang Yi and thanks him for giving her a chance to prove her strength. Zhang Yi tells her not to worry, he will bring her back safely. The story fast-forwards to the next day, and we see Zhang Yi has invited some guests over to discuss something. It was the people from the major base forces. A man in gray asks Zhang Yi the reason for this sudden call, and whether anything happened with the Eclipse Group. Zhang Yi informs them that Linhai City has been destroyed and Jiangnan City is also on the verge of destruction. Now that the Eclipse Group has fled, he is afraid their next target could be their Tianhai City. He instructs all of them to stay at their base until this matter is resolved. He then turns towards Changjinghuan and informs him that he needs to take extra precautions. If the opponent attacks Tianhai City, it will most likely be from the sea, so he needs to keep an eye on the coastlines. Hearing that, the man tells him he will keep that in mind and arrange for people to patrol the coastline to prevent them from getting through. After that, Zhang Yi informs all of them that he will be returning to Blizzard City to assist with the mission. While he is gone, they are in charge of the city's safety, so they should be careful and not make any mistakes that might cause them trouble. Afterward, he starts to think about what Xin told him last night at the dinner table and hopes that they don't fall into some trap. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. Chapter start and we see in Blizzard City's zone, where a crowd is gathered, cheering as a truck pulls over next to them. From the truck, Gao, along with his two companions, steps out and begins instructing everyone to form an orderly line to receive their daily necessities. As Gao hands over the goods, some of the civilians, seeing his generosity, comment that it would be great if Gao became their commander-in-chief of the Jiangnan region in the future. More people join in on that thought, saying that if someone as kind-hearted as Captain Gao were to take command, their lives would improve significantly. They note that he comes from a poor family and understands the hardships of a normal person in this era. Guman overhears their conversation and begins to smile, thinking that he deserves all this love from the people, as he has worked incredibly hard to get here. Gao also hears their conversation, but tries to act modest in front of everyone. He tells them that he is only doing his job and that it is his responsibility to take care of the people when they need it. He reminds them that Zhu Shui has worked even harder than him to make this city a peaceful place where everyone can live a stable life. The crowd, however, disagrees, arguing that this is not a peaceful city at all. They point out that Blizzard City originally had a population of 15 million when the world ended, but less than 2 million people were selected to enter the city. A man in the crowd tells Gao that the government didn't stop there. Countless more people were ruthlessly expelled due to various issues. Among them were his parents, a pair of elderly people in their 70s, who were also forced out of the city. Hearing this, Gao shouts and urges everyone to believe in him, promising that he will make this world a better place for everyone. The crowd erupts with cheers, placing their faith in him, believing he will never let them down. After some time, Gao prepares to leave, waving goodbye and telling the people to take care of themselves. Satisfied with their work, he and his companions start to leave. Gao then suggests they take a coffee break. The scene fast-forwards to Blizzard City's Area A, where the three of them are sitting in a coffee shop. Yushin comments that he thought he would be able to rest for a while but has been ordered to take on another task. He tells both of them that this region cannot survive without the three of them. Gao reminds him that they are the only investigation team currently not on a mission, so they need to take care of the people. He assures him that their workload will become much easier once more teams return from their missions. Guman comments that this is the reward they get for finishing their mission early. She then hears Gao say that they got lucky on their previous mission and didn't face any major dangers like the team in Tianhai City. Guman agrees, saying she never expected the team to encounter powerful mutants during what was supposed to be a simple mission to eliminate zombies. The unexpected battle led to the death of Bian Junwu and caused significant damage to the Black Robe team. Why Yushan tells both of them that once they successfully complete this mission, the Samsara team will become the leading presence among the 6 major investigation teams. When that happens, their prestige will reach unprecedented heights. All they need to do to make that a reality is drive the enemy out of their country. Gao reminds him that things aren't that simple. The higher-ups would never grant him credit so easily, nor would they allow him to take command of the Samsara team on this mission. Why Yushin counters that they currently don't have enough personnel, so they can't mobilize the Yinyun troops to encircle and suppress the enemy. This leaves only them as the best available choice. He tells Gao that when the time comes, the position of commander of Blizzard City will likely be his. Gao hesitates, reminding them that he comes from a poor background, a commoner with no strong family backing. Even with all his achievements, rising to the top will not be easy. Guman, however, sides with Yushan. She tells Gao that this is not necessarily the case, as the era they are living in is completely different from the past. In today's world, the only thing that matters is strength. Right now, the strongest person remaining in Blizzard City is him. She insists that this is his chance to rise and urges him to seize this opportunity. Wei Yuxian agrees, adding that they only need to take care of the Eclipse group. If they do, their prestige in Blizzard City will reach its peak, paving the way for Gao to enter the city's core leadership. He tells both of them that they will defy the rules of this world and prove that people like them, those who came from poor backgrounds, can climb to the top. Seeing the confidence on his face, Gao smirks and tells both of them that he will do everything in his power to secure this mission for the three of them. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. Chapter begins with the scene of a massive ship docked on the coast of a new land. The story shifts, and we see a new character named Li Fengxian, who is dressed as a pirate and asks someone if they are the leader of the group, the one responsible for bringing the whole Jiangnan region to its knees. In front of him was the leader of the Eclipse group, Jinguji Saikairo. Jinguji confirms that he is indeed the leader of the Eclipse group and addresses the man as the respected Heavenly Dragon King. Hearing that, the man bursts out laughing in excitement, calling Jinguji a very talented boy. He then asks if Jinguji is not afraid of death, considering he came to Tianlong Island all alone without any of his mutants. In the next second, his expression changes, and he becomes serious. He asks Jinguji how he found this place and warns him not to lie, or else this place will become his grave. Jinguji looks around and sees the mutants surrounding him, drawing their weapons. However, he is not intimidated at all and tells the man that he has a special ability that allows him to locate anyone's position. Hearing this, the man's expression grows tense, and he comments that the world is getting crazier by the day, with mutants appearing with weird and dangerous powers. He then asks Jinguji his reason for coming here. Jinguji responds that he has come to give him a gift, informing him that he will provide all the pirates of Tianlong with a tremendous amount of wealth. Upon hearing his words, the whole room erupts in laughter, and they question who he thinks he is. Seeing their reaction, Jinguji tells them that in the world they currently live in, weapons, energy, food, and population are the most precious resources. Before he can finish his sentence, another man named White Lotus, the deputy of Li Fengxian, interrupts him and asks if he knows whom he is talking to. White Lotus tells Jinguji that they are the pirates of Tianlong and do not need the wealth he speaks of. In response, Jinguji tells them that he is offering them a share in the rich territory of Huashu Kingdom and the Jiangnan region. Hearing those words, everyone is stunned, and they ask if he has gone mad. Jinguji assures them that he is not here to waste their time, and reminds them that their team of 13 mutants made 2 direct assaults on the Jiangnan region, both times emerging victorious. He informs them that the Jiangnan region is now left helpless. Li Fengxian agrees that he has heard of these events and asks if it is true that Jinguji managed to take out Deng Shintong along with the entire Celestial team. As they were speaking, another person named Nilet, who is the first team captain of the pirates, asks Jinguji why, if the Jiangnan region is as helpless as he claims, he has come to them instead of simply taking over and enjoying the wealth himself. Jinguji explains that their numbers are too few, and they are limited in what they can do. That is why he came to seek cooperation. He assures them that they should not worry, as he himself is proof. He managed to take out Jiangnan's elite team with ease. He insists that the Jiangnan region is not as powerful as rumored, and now, with Deng's death, they are even more vulnerable. Upon hearing this, White Lotus loses his temper and accuses Jinguji of trying to deceive them with tricks and words. He calls Jinguji nothing more than an outcast attempting a clumsy scheme and asks if he is trying to get himself killed. As soon as he says this, all the mutants prepare to take Jinguji out, pointing their guns at him. However, Jinguji remains fearless and tells them that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He points out that they have the manpower, while he can lead the way and help them avoid sea patrols. He urges them to believe him, warning that if they fail to seize this chance, they will never have such a good opportunity to attack the rich land again. After hearing everything, Li Fengxian speaks up and tells Jinguji that he is indeed a very interesting person, courageous as well. He admits that under normal circumstances, he would have immediately eliminated anyone who dared to set foot in the southern waters. However, he decides to let Jinguji go this time. Li Fengxian then tells Jinguji that he is a dangerous individual to have as an enemy, but he cannot expect loyalty from him as a subordinate. Therefore, He refuses his offer and tells him to return to where he came from. Hearing his answer, Jinguji bows and tells him that he completely understands. Before leaving, he tells Li Fengxian that he will show him the fire he has ignited in that land. And that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for the next part. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. Chapter start and we see. Phoenix Yuanin knew there was no point in trying to convince him anymore. He smiled and bowed to the Dragon King. As you wish. But then he looked up with a look of fierce determination in his eyes. However, he said, I'll show you that I'm starting a fire in that land. Phoenix Yuanin was angry that he couldn't convince the Tianlong pirates, and he walked away with a sour look on his face. But just as he was about to leave the cave, something strange happened behind him. The voice of the heavenly Dragon King echoed through the cave. Foolish Ronin. He has no idea how powerful we really are. People like him, who are too proud and don't understand real power, will only bring trouble to themselves in the end, the heavenly Dragon King shouted. Unless I say so, no one is allowed to make any deals with those Ronin. If you do, you'll regret it. As soon as they heard this, the crew quickly lowered their heads and showed respect. Yes, King, they replied. But there was one pirate who looked very different. He was Canet, the heavenly Dragon King's 4th Division captain. This Neon Ronin is quite interesting. If I can collaborate with him to take down the Wasa Kingdom, the heavenly Dragon King will surely look at me in a new light. Then he suddenly pulled out his phone to send a message to his subordinate, ordering his men to stop a wanderer wearing a newsboy cap and bring him to the base. After Phoenix Yuan left the cave, he didn't immediately leave Tianlong Island. Outside, Canet's man, Duna, was happily waiting for Phoenix Yuanin. Phoenix Yuanin asked, Who sent you here? But Duna didn't answer him directly. Instead, he pulled out a gun from his jacket and said, Don't ask too much. Come with us and you'll know. With a smile, Phoenix Yuanin agreed. Things were going as he planned. All right then, let's go. And I hope your bosses don't let me down. Inside the car, just to make things go smoothly, Duna gave Phoenix Yuanin a blindfold. If you're smart, you know what it means, right? Then Duna immediately signaled the driver and hurried to go to their boss. Phoenix Yuanin followed 4 pirate leaders into a car, and they drove around Tianlong Island for a while before reaching a giant iron ship. This was where the 4th Division of the Tianlong Pirates was based, and that massive iron ship belonged to Canet, the captain of the 4th Division. Phoenix Yuanin arrived at Canet's home. The thin man with brown skin and a crooked nose looked at him with a mean glare. Ronin, is it true what you said about the heavenly Dragon King? He asked. Is the Jianghan region really as weak as you say? Phoenix Yuanin smiled wider. He spread his hands and replied, Of course not. If we went straight to fight them, like attack their main base, Blizzard City, the 13 of us wouldn't stand a chance. I'm fully aware of that. But then he raised his voice a little. Their land is so huge, it's even bigger than many countries. But they don't have enough people to protect every part of it. Phoenix Yuanin reached out towards Canet. We won't be dumb enough to attack them directly. We'll just keep bothering them and make them run away. Eventually, we can take everything we want. As long as we Eclipse act alone, we won't get much. That's why I came to ask for your help. With the strength of your Tianlong pirates, you'll be able to take a lot. A look of anger flashed in Canet's eyes, and he shouted, Shut up! Who do you think you are to talk about our king like that? Seeing this, Phoenix Yuanin smiled gently and raised his hands. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's just that if you miss this chance, it might never come again. He smiled again. It's hard for you to find people like us to help. Canet squinted his eyes and spoke slowly. We're heading toward Jianghan by way of the Southern Sea. The biggest problem is their navy. You said, Is there a way for us to get past the navy's defenses? Phoenix Yuanin smiled and nodded. Of course. If we couldn't do that, how did we even land on the land? With Momituchi here, they could avoid any dangers. But Jianghan's situation was different. This is interesting, really interesting, Canet said, staring at Phoenix Yuanin with cold eyes. After a long pause, he grinned and added, In that case, Let's have a big fight together. Phoenix Yuanin smiled and said, then I wish us a successful partnership. Just as he finished speaking, a cold pistol was pressed against his forehead. Don't try anything funny, or I'll make sure to kill you myself, a voice warned. Phoenix Yuanin didn't even flinch at the pistol on his forehead. Of course, we're partners now, right? I will not betray my partners. Chapter start, and we see Zhang Yi headed back to Blizzard City with a few people. This time, besides Liang Yu and Hua, he brought young Shinshin along. Zhang Yi guessed that the Deng family must have a lot of power. Mr. Zhang Yi, we've been sent by Mr. Deng Yuna. He would like to invite you to lunch today. Is that okay with you? Jean was a little surprised. When the Deng family invited him over, he didn't really know them well, but he had visited Din Garden once before because Din Shintong had asked him to. Now that Din Shintong had died in battle, Jean thought Din Yuanbo would be too sad to think about anything else. So why was he inviting him over for lunch? He looked at the two bodyguards and asked with a smile, can I bring a few friends with me? Of course, that's fine. Please come this way. Jean and his friends got into a car, which started driving along a road that felt somewhat familiar to him, then quietly took out his satellite phone. He gave Ling Yu and Yang Shin a look, and they immediately understood. He wanted to talk by texting instead of speaking. Sha typed, the Deng family invited me for lunch. What do you think? Are they being nice, or do they have bad intentions? Wanggu frowned and thought for a while before replying, I'm not sure. Yang Shin smiled and quickly typed two words, win over. Zhang Yi looked at her, then typed back, what do you mean? Yang Xin Shin's lips curled into a mysterious smile. From what we know, Blizzard City doesn't have many really strong fighters. The only powerful ones are the 6 investigation captains, the head of operations Tu Yanli, and Su Jin's guard, Sun Luan. Based on how the city is run, it's unlikely that there are any hidden warriors. Even if there can't be too many. The Deng family mainly relies on Deng Shintong, their strongest fighter, to keep their power. But now that Deng Shintong has died in battle, it's going to be a big problem for them. The Deng family inviting you, brother, isn't about fighting you. That wouldn't help them at all. The only reason they would reach out is to try and get you on their side. And Zhang Yi felt a little more at ease. In this world, strong fighters decided who had the most power. Regular soldiers and even guns weren't as important anymore. About 30 minutes later, the car reached Dangwon. It was a familiar place. As they stepped into the living room, they saw dozens of women wearing elegant Chong Sams standing on both sides. They greeted them with graceful bows. Welcome, Mr. Zhang Yi, Miss Yin, and Miss Leon. With the luxurious decorations and the beautifully dressed women, Zhang Yi could tell that Deng Yuan was really trying to make an impression. Yang Shin, however, frowned slightly. She didn't like this kind of over-the-top welcome. They were welcomed by a well-dressed man in a suit. He looked like he was around 40 years old, but he was handsome, graceful, and carried himself like a true gentleman. His name was Lenin, the Deng family's butler. Mr. Jean, ladies, welcome to Di Yin. Our master has prepared a wonderful lunch and invites you to join us, Lenin said with a polite smile. Zhang and his friends followed Lanching as they walked further inside. This was Shang's first time visiting Din Yuan's home. Lenin announced, Mr. Deng, Mr. Zhang Yi and his guests have arrived. Zhang Yi stepped forward and greeted him politely. Hello, Mr. Deng. Thank you for having us. Yang Shin and Liang Yu also greeted him in a calm, polite manner. Hello, Mr. Deng. Din Yanbo looked at Zhang Yi and his friends with a big smile. Good. I'm really happy that you all came, he said warmly. Have a seat. Make yourselves comfortable. He then turned to Shang and said, Zhang Yi, you knew my nephew, Di Shernan. If you don't mind, you can call me Uncle Denver. Shan was a little surprised. Uncle Deng, he said, giving a small signal to someone nearby. Right away, a beautiful woman in a Chong Sam walked up carrying a tray. On it was a small silver box. This is just a little gift to welcome you, Deng Yuan said with a grin. I hope you like it. Dan Yuanbo was making his intentions very clear. He wanted to be on Jan's good side. Uncle Deng, what's inside? Din Yuna noticed Zhang's cautious expression and chuckled. My poor boy, you've been struggling outside for more than half a year. You haven't had it easy, he said, He pointed at the silver box. What's inside will save you 6 months of effort. It will make you stronger. Zan's face froze. Ling Yu and Yingying Xin also looked serious. It can make me stronger? Zhang Yi asked in disbelief. Deng smiled knowingly. You're thinking that the only way to gain strength is by taking power from others, right? Shunny nodded. That's right. Deng smirked. That's true in theory, but that method is just like how wild animals survive, isn't it? The difference between humans and beasts is that we know how to use tools. This is called X compound. Only the Deng family can make it. When used, it helps outsiders grow stronger much faster. Zhang Yi listened carefully and thought for a moment. I see. So that's why Blizzard City doesn't have a huge population, but it still has so many powerful outsiders. Zhang Yi thought to himself. He never trusted people easily, and this was his first time meeting Deng Yuanbo. This gift is too much, Uncle Deng. I can't accept it, Zhang Yi said politely, smiling. Who knew what was really inside this compound? What if it was poisoned? What if taking it put him under the Deng family's control? Deng Yuanbo nodded. You're very careful, and that's a good thing. If you weren't, you probably wouldn't have survived in the dangerous outer city and made it this far. He pointed at the silver box of X compound and said in a calm but confident voice, I don't give gifts often, and when I do, no one refuses them. This is just a small welcome gift. I won't ask for anything in return. Hearing this, Zhang Yi felt it would be rude to say no again. He nodded. Then I'll thank you for your kindness, Uncle Deng. Zhang Yi took the silver box and stored it in his mutant space. Deng clapped his hands, and soon more than a dozen maids arrived carrying golden plates. The table was quickly filled with delicious-looking dishes. The Deng family had their own chef and stored food, so the meal looked amazing. Zhang Yi didn't hesitate. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating. But during the meal, Deng Yuanbo didn't talk about anything serious. Deng Yuanbo called Zhang Yi into his study. Yang Xin, and Wang Yi were led to the lounge next door by Lionel. Once in the study, after a few polite words, Deng Yuanbo got straight to the point. Zhang Yi, you don't have a strong background in Blizzard City. If you want to make a name for yourself in the Jiangman region, you'll need to prove your worth. Zhush wanted you to be the captain of the Tengu team. Why did you turn it down? Deng Yuanbo's words sounded like he was trying to convince Zhang Yi to join him, but Zhang Yi wasn't sure what he was really thinking. So he asked, I like my freedom and don't want to be controlled by others. If I become the captain, will I have to follow every order from my superiors? Deng Yuanbo smiled. But even in Tian High City, don't you still have to listen to Blizzard City's orders? Zhang Yi smiled back, his eyes filled with meaning. At least there's some flexibility. Sure, refusing orders wasn't an option, but ignoring them secretly? That was possible. Deng Yuanbo raised an eyebrow. Young people these days, they don't care about power or wealth. They just want to live their own lives. You don't even want the chance to be a leader? Yuanbo shook his head. I don't mind. But how about this? You can be a temporary captain instead. Would that work for you? Temporary captain? Zhang Yi repeated the words, thinking. That just meant leading a team for a short time and taking responsibility. But what would he get in return? Deng Yuanbo walked closer and smiled. Many people agreed on this decision. They like your independent personality. You don't chase after power or fame. Don't worry, this won't be for nothing. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. Shang's eyes lit up. Oh. Deng Yuanbo spoke slowly. You outsiders from the outer city don't really understand supernatural powers. Without guidance, you have to figure things out on your own, step by step, like a blind man trying to find his way. This wastes time and talent. But our Deng group has been studying supernatural powers for over 50 years. Shang's eyes widened. Half a century? So mutants have been around for a long time? Deng Yuanbo added, mutation is just part of evolution. With such a huge human population, mutants have appeared in every era. But now, mutations are happening on a much bigger scale, and people know about them. In the past, our research focused on medicine and the military. To be honest, we made a lot of money from it. He smiled at Zhang Yi. We have a skilled team that can help you and your friends grow stronger. We can train you to reach your full potential. You're already very strong, but you still have room to improve. And your team, they're falling behind, aren't they? Zhang Yi had no way to argue. The gap in talent was making the difference in strength between them more obvious. But he still didn't fully trust Deng Yuanhua. I don't get it. Why do you want to help me? If you just want me to become a fighter for the Deng family and follow your orders, then I can't do that. Instead of getting angry, Deng Yuanhua threw his head back and laughed. Of course not. Even Su Xinyong's position as captain of investigations didn't interest you. I don't think the Deng family can offer you anything bigger. Zhang Yi was even more confused. Then what do you gain from helping me? The smile on Deng Yuanhua's face slowly disappeared. He seemed to be deep in thought. He turned around silently, looking out at the snow falling in the courtyard. Zhang Yi waited for a response. A whole minute passed, and just as his patience was running out, Deng Yuanhua finally spoke in a deep voice. I will help you take revenge for my nephew. Zhang Yi immediately thought of Deng Shentong, the confident, handsome man he hadn't interacted with much but still found impressive. Deng Shentong's death had come as a shock. As the leader of the Deng family, Deng Yuanhua could not accept this harsh reality. Revenge? Zhang Yi said slowly. You don't need to tell me that. I will wipe out everyone in Eclipse Moon. But to his surprise, Deng Yuanhua shook his head. The ones who killed my nephew, Eclipse Moon, were just tools. The real enemy is in Blizzard City. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. Chapter starts and we see Zhang Yi take a deep breath and say, I don't want to get involved, no matter how tempting your offer is. If I step into this power struggle, I and the people I care about will be in danger. Uncle Deng shook his head. Don't worry. I won't ask you to fight anyone. As long as you do your job well, that's enough. He looked at Zhang Yi and said clearly, what I want is to complete this mission well and perfect then Samsara team. That's enough for me. Zhang Yi suddenly understood that Uncle Deng's real goal was to stop Gao Chongkong from moving up. Do you not trust Gao Chongkong? It's not just him, Uncle Deng replied seriously. This job has to be done by you, and then you'll become a key person for us. Someone killed my nephew because they wanted to take advantage of this and change everything in Blizzard City. My old man will never agree to that. If you, someone from outside, handle this, Blizzard City's power won't be completely changed. Zhang Yi didn't fully believe what Uncle Deng said. The other man was very tricky, and he was a lot better at schemes than Zhang Yi was. If Zhang Yi believed everything Uncle Deng said, he could end up being tricked. But you're saying you're helping me and my team get stronger so we can win against Eclipse team and earn a lot of credit. You don't want someone else to take that credit, right? Yes, exactly. Uncle Deng nodded. Whoever wins the Eclipse team will get the highest respect in Blizzard City. And since they're from Neon, they're seen as very special. You understand, right? Zhang Yi understood. It made sense. The Deng family had gone through a lot, and they were afraid that if the power in Blizzard City changed, it would be bad for them. If no one else could get the big credit, the Deng family could slowly get back to a stable position. Zhang Yi was also very curious about how Uncle Deng planned to help his team get stronger. How are you going to do that? Are you going to use the X compound? But Uncle Deng smiled in a way that didn't seem friendly. He looked like someone who might be hiding something. That stuff won't help you much. It's for the people around you. Zhang Yi was confused. Huh? Isn't it supposed to be good for me? Uncle Deng said, after many battles, you've actually collected a lot of power from different mutant beings. I was shocked when I first heard about it. It's really rare to train someone as powerful as you in the outer city, but you did it. It's like a miracle, Uncle Deng said, even though I don't know exactly what you've gone through. It's clear that you've reached a point where it's hard to get any stronger. At this point, just taking in more mutant power won't help much. Of course, the X compound can't fix this either. He picked up a small teacup from the table and said, this cup is like your strength. It can only hold so much water. No matter how much more you try to add, it just overflows. Zhang Yi quickly understood. You mean the limit? Uncle Deng nodded with a smile. Exactly. Zhang Yi thought of Deng Shentong, who had reached a similar limit. He shook his head with a teasing smile and said, you haven't figured out how to break through this yet, have you? If you could, Deng Shintong wouldn't just have Delta-level strength. When Deng Shintong was mentioned, Uncle Deng sighed. Yes, he's at a limit. Delta is the highest he can go. We've been trying to break that barrier to make him even stronger, but the genetic world is something even gods can't fully control. It's too difficult for ordinary people to touch. The same goes for you. Even though your strength is almost as strong as the investigation captain's now, it's hard to improve quickly. So the best option is to help your team members get stronger. Uncle Deng poured himself a cup of tea and, while drinking, looked out the window. He could see Liang Yu, who was in the next room. To become stronger, you need a container that's big and strong enough to hold all that energy. Otherwise, it won't work. Not everyone can handle this kind of experiment. You need someone with the right abilities and a strong mind. He looked at Liang Yu again. Your teammate, Liang Yu, is like a precious gem. If she can develop her skills, she could become just as strong as you. Uncle Deng looked at Zhang Yi, but he didn't say what was on his mind. He knew that Liang Yu had even more potential for growth than Zhang Yi. After all, it took a lot of strength and skill to become a bodyguard for such important people. What about Zhang Yi? He was just a small warehouse manager in Tianhai City. Even though he was talented, he couldn't compare to someone like Liang Yu, who had been trained hard since childhood. So what do you think, Zhang Yi? Do you want to accept my help? It will only benefit you, no harm at all. To win the battles ahead, you'll also need people you can trust. Zhang Yi looked down at Uncle Deng's shoes, his face slightly worried, and thought to himself, can he trust Uncle Deng? It was hard to say, but it was clear that this was a big chance for him. If nothing had happened to Deng Shentong, the Deng family wouldn't be able to help him at all. It would be a shame to miss out on this. Uncle Deng didn't rush Zhang Yi. Instead, he said kindly, you should really think this over. After all, you don't know us well, so it's normal to be unsure. But this is a rare chance for you. I hope you don't miss out on a great future. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said, I need some time to think. It won't take long. Please give me a little time. Uncle Deng smiled and said, of course. Take your time. Since Zhang Yi was still unsure, he decided to go talk to Yin Shinshin about it. Zhang Yi quickly went to the lounge next door and found Yin Shinshin and Liang Yu. He asked them to come over and talk about the situation in private. This was a big opportunity, and he didn't want to waste time. The Eclipse team would come back someday, so every moment counted. To make a choice, he had to be fast. After hearing Zhang Yi's explanation, Liang Yu was suddenly interested. The Deng family must know a lot about genetic technology, especially when it comes to mutants. It's said that the genetic potions in Blizzard City were developed with their help. Liang Yu wanted to get stronger. She then said to Zhang Yi, I'm willing to try. I'll take responsibility for the risks. Let me try it first, and if it works and has no bad side effects, then others can try it too. Zhang Yi looked at her and asked, are you always this brave? After some thought, Zhang Yi nodded firmly and went back to Uncle Deng's study to show his decision. We are willing to accept the Deng family's help, he said. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The chapter starts and we see Zhang Yi and Liang Yu step forward to meet Uncle Deng. Mr. Deng, please go ahead, she said. Uncle Deng's eyes sparkled as he looked at her like he had discovered a rare, precious gem. Zhang Yi said, I need to contact her every day, and that has to be guaranteed. Uncle Deng nodded and said, you're very careful, but this time I'm trying to help you. If you're worried, you can stay with her. Zhang Yi thought for a moment, but then turned down the offer. The situation in Blizzard City was still unclear, and he didn't want to do anything that might make people think he was becoming part of the Deng family. Uncle Deng leaned closer and said, actually, you could try our package. You might have more potential than you think. Zhang Yi smiled and shook his head. No, that's not necessary. Uncle Deng grinned and said, if you change your mind, come see me anytime. I believe you'll come back. Zhang Yi thought about it and decided it wasn't the right time for him to take such a risk, but once Liang Yu succeeded, he could let others around him go first like Uncle Yu and Fatty Sue. As for the resources needed for the experiments, that wasn't something he had to worry about. He had done a big favor for the Deng family, so it was only fair they gave him something in return. But Zhang Yi was still confused. He thought about the limits of his abilities and wondered, is Delta the highest I can reach? Zhang Yi, with Yang Xin holding Hua, left the Deng family. Meanwhile, Liang Yu was being taken by the butler, Linen, to the laboratory inside Deng's house, in a study. Uncle Deng stood in front of a huge floor-to-ceiling window, watching Zhang Yi leave. This boy is so careful and admirable, Uncle Deng sighed. If you could be even half, no, one-third, as cautious as him, how could you have ended up like that? A deep voice came from behind him, from the wall. This guy is hard to figure out. Uncle Deng turned around and said, "Oh? Is that why you think so highly of him? But do you believe he can beat Gao Chongkong?" Uncle Deng had doubts. Even though Zhang Yi performed well during the last battle against Eclipse Moon, he only faced a small enemy and lost 2 health points. But the person behind the wall insisted Zhang Yi had to do it. Without that, why would Uncle Deng be so focused on him? After all, who in Blizzard City wouldn't want technical help from the Deng family? The deep voice replied, "Don't underestimate him. His potential is definitely above the level of the captain of the 6th Brigade. It might even be higher." Uncle Deng's eyes widened in surprise. The 6 investigation captains of Blizzard City were all at the peak of Delta-level power. But if Zhang Yi's potential was higher than theirs, would that mean Epsilon? Uncle Deng made up his mind to invest in Zhang Yi and bring him over to his side. When it came to power, the only person in Zhangin who could compare with him was Xu Jin, the supreme commander. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi and Yang Xin left the Deng family's headquarters. Sitting on the couch, Zhang Yi leaned back with Yang Xin sitting close beside him. The two of them settled into a comfortable position. Hawa, the cat, squinted her eyes and curled up happily on Zhang's stomach. But Zhang Yi couldn't stop thinking about Liang Yu going through the genetic experiments at the Deng family lab. He still felt uneasy. "I have a feeling that the Deng family is being too nice to me, and Uncle Deng's explanation doesn't fully convince me," Zhang Yi said. Yang Xin smiled slightly, propping herself up with one arm while looking at Zhang Yi with admiration in her eyes. "Brother, there's one thing you haven't thought of." Zhang Yi looked up, surprised. "Huh? What's that?" Yang Xin reached out. "You're too careful. You always think the worst will happen. But don't forget that now you're the most powerful stranger in the Jianghan region. People like you are respected everywhere, and every major force will try their best to win you over." Zhang Yi suddenly understood. He sighed deeply. "I've survived so many dangerous struggles between people that I almost forgot how civilized society works. Blizzard City still has some level of civilization where people use their brains, not just their fists." Zhang Yi reached into his dimensional space and pulled out the X compound that Uncle Deng had given him. He opened the silver box to reveal a tube of pale green liquid. Zhang Yi could imagine how valuable it was. He had a strong urge to use it, almost like a genetic need, but out of caution, he hesitated. After thinking it over, he decided to call Bailey Changyi for advice. Soon, Bailey Changyi answered the phone. Zhang Yi exchanged a few polite words, and then got straight to the point. "Are the Deng Group's genetic medicines good? Do they have any dark secrets in their history?" Bailey Changyi answered, "Let me tell you, the Deng family controls most of the genetic medicine field in Blizzard City. After many experiments, the medicine is now very reliable. The medicine is called Compound Number 6. Compound Number 6 was a term Zhang Yi had never heard before, but he quickly understood it was a unique technology developed by the Deng family. So much so that even people in Blizzard City couldn't access it. "Thanks. I understand now," Zhang Yi said. He thought for a moment and resisted the urge to use the injection. It would be better to wait until Liang Yu's experiment was over and observe the results. Caution was key. He couldn't afford to make mistakes. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. Chapter starts and we see Zhang Yi get a message from Zhu Zeng that he wants to meet him in the combat center. Zhu Zeng greeted him with a kind smile and looked at Zhang Yi with approval, much like he had looked at Deng Shenong. "I heard from Uncle Deng that you agreed to be the captain of the Tango team." Zhang Yi straightened up and placed his right fist over his chest. "For the Jiangnan region, for Blizzard City, and the glory of the Chinese nation, we have no choice but to do this." Zhu Zeng coughed softly, internally rolling his eyes. He'd almost begged Zhang Yi before, but now Zhang Yi was giving a dramatic speech. Who was he trying to impress? Zhu Zeng knew Zhang Yi wasn't the type to back down easily, and his resolve reminded him of a man who would never pass up an opportunity when it presented itself. Zhu Zeng got serious. Since you've accepted the position of captain, you must take on the responsibilities. The remnants of the God Squad and the Black Robe Squad will be under your management. As captain, you must bring the team together and stop acting like a lone wolf. Zhu Zeng added, as the investigation captain, you'll also have highly classified permissions. Lan Xinqing will send you the access details later. Zhang Yi didn't object, but after thinking for a moment, he made two requests. I brought some people with me, Liang Yu, Yang Xin, and my pet, Hua, and I'd like them to be included in the team. Zhu Zeng smiled and nodded. Of course, that's no problem. As captain, you have the authority to choose your team. Zhang Yi added, this team is only temporary. I'll serve as captain for now, but once the mission is over, I'll return to Tianhai City. So, I don't want my personal information exposed too much. Can I go by a code name instead of my real name? Zhu Zeng thought for a moment before replying, your idea is something several district leaders mentioned recently. We need to create code names for key combatants to protect personal information. Zhang Yi asked, does that mean it's okay? Zhu Zeng smiled and nodded. Of course. The region is already working on a codename system. The rules are pretty much set, and investigation captains already have their codenames. I can get one for you. Zhang Yi thought for a moment and made his request. I want an obscure codename, not too strong, not too weak. Something that seems unimportant so no one would ever notice. Zhu Zeng understood Zhang Yi's cautious nature and agreed. All right, I'll check the list and find a good one for you. He added, as for the Tango team members, Lan Xinqing and Bailey Chongqing will contact you. Zhang Yi nodded. That works, and say goodbye. Zhu Zeng also said goodbye after Zhang Yi left. Zhu Zeng sat back in his chair. Zhang Yi is very clever. As the Tango team's captain, he handled the situation perfectly. In the shadow behind him, Sun Luan slowly spoke. With this, no one in Blizzard City will challenge your authority. Once the mission to capture the eclipse is over, we'll disband the Tango team and let Zhang Yi leave Blizzard City. This is the best outcome. Sun Luan looked at Zhu Zeng, smiling slightly. But then, who will lead the Tango team? Zhu Zeng's lips slowly curled into a cold smile. Don't worry. I already have the perfect candidate in mind. Shortly after Zhang Yi left, Zhu Zeng sent him a list of potential code names to choose from. Once Zhang Yi confirmed his choice, it would be reported to the 6-region system. He thought for a while, then decided on a moderate title that would neither be too hidden nor too obvious. He chose Chaos. After finalizing his decision, Zhang Yi reported the title to Zhu Zeng. From then on, Blizzard City would address him by the codename Chaos in all public announcements. When Zhu Zeng received Zhang Yi's choice of codename, he was momentarily taken aback before a smile slowly crept onto his lips. This is just how it should be, he thought. Scene shifts, and we see Zhang Yi on the sofa, and someone knocks on the door. Zhang Yi sees on the security camera it is Bailey Chongqing. Bailey Chongqing offered a knowing smile. Congratulations, Captain, he said, his voice filled with both admiration and a touch of melancholy. Zhang Yi sensed something unusual in his tone and quickly connected the dots. What about you? He asked. Did you lose your captain position? Bailey Chongqing shrugged with a wry smile. I was only temporarily serving as captain, but now, I've come to understand something. I shouldn't take on a porcelain job without diamonds. He paused, his gaze distant. Even though I've been called the investigation captain recently, no one truly saw me as the leader. It's easier now. Zhang Yi, you can't blame me. Bailey Chongqing nodded. I understand. Luckily, my family's situation hasn't changed yet. Zhang Yi continued. I'm only the temporary captain. Once the Eclipse mission is over, the Tango team might be disbanded. I'll step down, and I'll recommend you as the next captain. He smiled and put his arm around Bailey Chongqing's shoulders. After all, we're familiar with each other. If I don't help you, who will? Bailey Chongqing said to Zhang Yi, you've just become captain. There are still some things you don't understand. The headquarters asked me to introduce you to the responsibilities and powers of an investigation captain. By the way, there are two important pieces of information I'll give you. Zhang Yi's expression turned serious when he heard the word intelligence. What intelligence? Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain stories for you. The chapter starts, and we see a computer screen with two messages. One from a Tango team member, and the other titled Deng Shintong versus Jinguji Saikairo in the final battle. Zhang Yi says, "What's the other information?" Bailey Chongqing's smile faded. This is the message Deng Shintong sent to headquarters before his death. It's the core secret about the eclipse. Zhang Yi's face grew more serious. This information is crucial, Zhang Yi said, his tone sharp and urgent. Let's go over it. He added, signaling to Bailey Chongqing to follow him to the living room. When they arrived, Zhang Yi pulled out a laptop from his dimensional space. He then called out to young Xian Xin to come to the living room for a moment. He had a document to show her and asked her to help analyze it together with them. When young Xian Xin arrived in the living room, Zhang Yi waved his hand to her. "Come sit here. We can watch it together." As she entered the room, young Xian Xin was holding Hua, who was comfortably nestled in her arms. Zhang Yi settled into a chair and began playing the video. The footage was mostly blank, thanks to Deng Shintong's ability to distort light, making it impossible for recording devices to capture clear images. All that remained was the audio from the fragmented conversations. However, some crucial information emerged. The subject was Phoenix Yuan's ability to reincarnate after death. Immortal? That's quite a troublesome ability, Zhang Yi muttered, his brows furrowing. How do you deal with someone who cannot be killed? Who could say? From the sounds of the battle, it was clear that Phoenix Yuan was no slouch in close combat either, matching Deng Shintong's prowess. After what seemed like an eternity, the blinding white light began to fade, replaced by an intense red flame. Zhang Yi could see Deng Shintong engulfed in the flames, suffering horribly. But amidst the chaos, a towering figure, naked and wreathed in fire, emerged. It was Phoenix Yuan, smiling with ferocity as he charged toward Deng Shintong again and again. Despite the overwhelming assault, Deng Shintong's resistance didn't falter. His holy body's white light clashed against the Phoenix's flames as the two battled fiercely. Deng Shintong struck Phoenix Yuan again and again, but each time, Phoenix Yuan rose unscathed. Zhang Yi and the others listened intently as Deng Shintong's voice echoed through the video. "This guy, where is his limit?" Deng Shintong's voice was thick with disbelief. Is he truly immortal? No, impossible. There are no unkillable beings in this world. There's something I've missed. But doubt crept in. Am I going to lose? He gritted his teeth. No, something's wrong. I can't lose. I'm stronger than him. Yet, as the battle raged on, his confidence wavered. But I am going to lose. There's something hidden here. A sharp realization hit him. Now I get it. I understand everything. His words grew frantic. There's a traitor inside Blizzard City. Someone leaked my abilities. The air in the room went still as Zhang Yi absorbed the revelation. His grip on the cup tightened, his brow furrowed in disbelief. A traitor inside Blizzard City? The suspicion gnawed at him, growing stronger with every passing moment. Young Xian Xin stared at the screen, her expression unreadable, but Zhang Yi could sense the storm of thoughts behind her calm demeanor. Bailey Chongqing, on the other hand, remained as unfazed as ever, his experience evident. This was not the first time he'd seen this footage, Zhang Yi cursed inwardly. So, the high-ups of Blizzard City have seen this too. That's why they're so eager to have me lead the Tengu team. Or are they using me as bait to flush out the traitor? He felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. I can't trust anyone, not even Zhu Zhang. He focused back on the video. Deng Shintong was growing weaker, nearing the point of collapse. The struggle was becoming unbearable to watch. The last image showed a giant flaming fist striking his face. Let Zhang Yi. Deng Shintong's final words were cut off, and the scene faded into a blinding white light, signaling a self-destruct bomb, commonly used by captain-level figures. The video cut off at that point. Zhang Yi stood still, hands folded in front of him, deep in thought. The last image left by Deng Shintong revealed so much. Could Phoenix Yuan predict the future? Combined with his immortality, it seemed nearly impossible to defeat him. And then there was Deng Shintong's last sentence, let Zhang Yi. The law of cause and effect? Zhang Yi pondered. He had an idea of what this might mean. If he was right, he had a powerful ability tied to the law of cause and effect, one that might even allow him to reverse death itself. He had once believed his return from death was due to a special power he had awakened. Though he had yet to fully understand it, Zhang Yi considered reaching out to the Deng group for help in the future. The thought crossed his mind. Just then, Bailey Chongqing's voice broke through his thoughts. What did you learn after watching that? Zhang Yi turned toward him with a faint smile. What a discovery. I didn't expect my opponent to be so troublesome. Bailey Chongqing responded, but Deng Shintong mentioned you. He said you could deal with him. He didn't finish speaking, so don't jump to conclusions, Bailey Chongqing cautioned. He smiled again and added, for out of the 5 Eclipse members who died, you killed. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.